With the sound of the collision, Jian Wushuang blocked all the saber lights that Blood Saber Emperor used. Amazing! I used my most powerful secret skill, and the divine power that burst out at this moment is no less than that of an ordinary ruler. But he can still block my saber lights so easily? Blood Saber Emperor's eyes were full of excitement. In the next moment, he no longer held back. Blood Sword Master, take my strongest saber. As soon as he finished speaking, Blood Saber Emperor's figure suddenly retreated. As he retreated, the blood-colored bewitching charm battle saber in his hand suddenly slashed out. Whoosh! Whoosh! Endless blood-colored saber lights suddenly burst out. Each of these blood-colored saber lights was like a blood-colored moon. There were hundreds and thousands of these blood-colored saber lights. They were like an enormous ocean of saber lights, blotting out the sky and covering the sun. For a moment, the entire world was covered by this ocean of blood-colored blade lights. At the center of this ocean of blood-colored blade lights, an aura that could make countless principles masters tremble suddenly rose. At the end of the horizon, a cold blood-colored light rushed straight over. This blood-colored light was incomparably dazzling. At the moment it lit up, the entire ocean of blood-colored blade lights around it seemed to have lost its color. The entire world seemed to have turned completely dark. In this boundless darkness, there was only this blood light left. It was the focus of the world and the only color in the world. This saber move is not bad. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. He still did not draw his sword. He still used his finger as a sword. When the blood light approached him, his right finger also stretched out straight like a sharp sword, stabbing toward the void in front of him. Jian Wushuang still did not use his sword skill. Instead, he simply stabbed forward. However, there was an extremely dense sword principle universe origin in his hand. In an instant, everything around him disappeared. The sea of blood-red saber light had completely disappeared. The blood light, which had previously been the only color in the world, immediately dimmed and almost disappeared. Jian Wushuang's finger, which did not contain any power, had already touched the Blood Saber Emperor's chest. You lost, Jian Wushuang said lightly. How is this possible? The Blood Saber Emperor still stood there, staring at the finger on his chest. His eyes were wide open, and his mind was blank. He was completely dumbfounded. He did not expect that his most powerful saber move, which he was proud of, was already an ultimate skill at the ruler realm. In addition, after he used the secret skill, he temporarily had divine power comparable to that of a ruler. At this moment, his battle strength should be infinitely close to that of a ruler. However, such a saber move was still easily defeated by Jian Wushuang. He did not even draw his sword. He just used his fingers to defeat his swordsmanship and then pressed it on his chest. Felt like a giant was bullying a weak baby. He could see that Jian Wushuang did not use his full strength. He had always been casual and easy, but even so, he still easily defeated him. He was completely crushed by Jian Wushuang, and he was bullied by Jian Wushuang. In the void, the Divine Master, who had been watching the battle, was also stunned. How could it be? How could the Blood Saber Emperor be defeated so miserably? Even if the Blood Sword Master is more powerful than the Blood Saber Emperor, he didn't know that the gap is so big. Could it be? The Divine Master immediately thought of a possibility. At this moment, the Blood Saber Emperor had barely calmed down. He raised his head and looked deeply at Jian Wushuang, asking, Blood Sword Master, have you become a ruler? A ruler? Jian Wushuang was stunned, but then he laughed. I haven't become a ruler, but my strength has long surpassed that of an ordinary primary ruler. You haven't broken through to the ruler realm, but your battle strength has surpassed that of an ordinary ruler? Blood Saber Emperor was stunned. After a long while, he let out a helpless sigh. It seems that I've entered the heaven-viewing realm. I thought that I should be the strongest among the principles masters. Even if you were stronger than me, you wouldn't be much stronger. But in the end, you're much stronger than me. You're on a completely different level. Blood Saber Emperor, don't be discouraged. I'm able to reach this stage not only because I have many special reasons, but also because I've had some special encounters. As for you, you're indeed very terrifying among the principal's masters, Jian Wushuang said. He did not say this to comfort Blood Saber Emperor, but because the latter's strength was indeed very impressive. At least among the principal's masters, the Blood Saber Emperor's strength was definitely recognized by Jian Wushuang. He was a special life form and had a powerful divine power secret skill. He could release divine power that was not inferior to that of an ordinary primary ruler in a short period of time. In addition, he had created an absolute art at the level of a ruler. Such strength, to a certain extent, he was not much weaker than a primary ruler. No matter how powerful I am no match for you. This battle with you has made me realize that there is always someone stronger than me. In this starfield alone, there are many principal's masters who are far stronger than me, not to mention the entire vast universe. There must be many more terrifying geniuses and great beings like you, or even stronger than you. I cannot wait any longer. After the competition in the Red Cloud world is over, I'll set off to the depths of the universe, Blood Saber Emperor said. You're going to explore the depths of the universe? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Blood Saber Emperor, who was watching the battle in the void, was also shocked. He did not expect that Blood Saber Emperor would have such a thought after the battle with Jian Wushuang. Blood Sword Master, thank you for this battle, Blood Saber Emperor said. You're welcome. Jian Wushuang was calm. By the way, there's something you don't know yet, right? Blood Saber Emperor suddenly asked. What is it? Jian Wushuang asked. Not long ago, a sword stone was born around the 17th ruins on the 3rd continent, Blood Saber Emperor said. Sword stone. Jian Wushuang was stunned. He was on the 3rd continent, and Taoist Shen God had been collecting information about the Red Cloud world through various channels, but he had never heard of any sword stone. What's so special about this sword stone? Who got it in the end? Jian Wushuang asked. I don't know its specific use, but I'm sure it's very useful for cultivators who are comprehending sword principle. When it was born, it was connected to the Red Cloud world, so no one could take it away. Therefore, it should still be there. If you have time, you can go and take a look yourself, Blood Saber Emperor said. Blood Saber Emperor and Divine Master Tianhen soon left. However, Blood Saber Emperor told Jian Wushuang about the existence of the Sword Stone. Sword Stone. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Since it happened to appear on the 3rd continent, I can't miss it. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and headed straight for the Sword Stone. The Red Cloud world was very large, with 7 continents. The 3rd continent alone was extremely vast, covering a radius of billions of miles. Within this billions of miles, there were a large number of ruins, which were marked by the experts of this star field for identification. The 17th ruins should be near the center of the 3rd continent, so Jian Wushuang soon arrived there. After arriving at the 17th ruins, Jian Wushuang spread out his soul power and easily found the Sword Stone. That's the Sword Stone? Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. There was indeed a huge blood stone in his soul perception. At first glance, it looked no different from the ordinary stones in the Red Cloud world. But at this moment, there were many principal's masters gathered there. Most of them were sitting cross-legged under the bloodstone and meditating. Jian Wushuang soon arrived in front of the bloodstone. When he arrived, he finally saw the peculiarity of the bloodstone. It was made of the same material as the ordinary bloodstone. The difference was that there were 4 large golden words in the middle of the sword stone. Feng Xiao Xiao Shi. Looking at the 4 golden words in the middle of the sword stone, an ancient and ethereal aura instantly came toward him. In an instant, even Jian Wushuang could not help being affected by the 4 golden words. His consciousness became empty and ethereal. What a terrifying concept! Even I can't help being affected? Jian Wushuang was startled awake instantly, but he took a deep breath. He stared at the 4 golden words on the sword stone. Each golden word contained a unique concept. As he focused his mind, the sword stone in front of Jian Wushuang suddenly changed. The 4 golden characters on the sword stone were no longer ordinary characters. They seemed to have come alive. The golden characters evolved in Jian Wushuang's mind, and in the blink of an eye, they turned into 4 astonishing sword skills. Jian Wushuang's eyes widened. He was completely stunned by the sword skills that were transformed from the 4 golden characters. They were too powerful and too terrifying. The sword skills alone brought a sense of terror to Jian Wushuang. Without a doubt, any one of these 4 sword skills could be said to be earth-shaking. The person who left the 4 ancient characters on the sword stone must be an earth-shaking super expert. Jian Wushuang even felt that the person who had left the 4 characters must be a supreme expert. Only the words left by experts above the supreme expert could evolve into such terrifying swordsmanship. No wonder this bloodstone is called the Sword Stone. No wonder so many principles masters came to this sword stone to meditate. Jian Wushuang was extremely excited. He knew that these principles masters must be experts who were good at sword principle. They had some attainments in sword principle, but none of them had comprehended the universe origin of sword principle. Without comprehending the universe origin of sword principle, even if they came to the sword stone, they would not be able to feel the existence of the 4 sword skills. They could feel very little. But even a few things, such as some simple concepts, were enough for the principles masters to remain silent for a long time. But Jian Wushuang was different. He had stepped into the threshold of the universe origin of sword principle, especially after comprehending the heaven suppression tablet for 5,000 years. He had made great progress in sword principle. Now, he could see the 4 ancient golden characters in front of the sword stone, but he could see the complete 4 sword skills derived from these 4 characters. Any one of these 4 sword skills was earth-shaking. It was definitely a great opportunity for Jian Wushuang. 3 of these 4 sword skills are offensive sword skills, but the other one seems to be defensive body protection sword skill. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He carefully felt the 4 sword skills he saw. Among the 4 sword skills, 3 were mainly offensive. Some were extremely powerful, stronger than the previous one. Some were as fast as ghosts, killing their opponents in an instant. However, these 3 sword skills were undoubtedly frontal sword skills. Only the last one, which was derived from the word 11, was a sword skill that gave Jian Wushuang the feeling that it was a natural sword skill in body protection. This made Jian Wushuang start to ponder. The 4 sword skills derived from the golden words on the sword stone are all profound and unfathomable. The red cloud world will be closed again after 10,000 years at most. In just 10,000 years, I still have to fight for the supreme treasure. It's impossible for me to comprehend all 4 sword skills at the same time. I can only choose one sword skill and concentrate on comprehending it. Since I can only choose one, I have to think carefully about which one to choose. Jian Wushuang murmured. If he had enough time, or if he could collect the sword stone and take it out of the red cloud world, he would not be in a hurry. He would spend his time comprehending 4 sword skills at the same time. Unfortunately, when he came to the sword stone, he saw that it was completely integrated with the red cloud world. He could not move or collect the sword stone. If he directly divided the sword stone into 2 and took away the part containing the 4 golden characters, it would not work either. Because Jian Wushuang found that the 4 golden characters and the sword stone had been completely integrated. If the sword stone was damaged, the 4 golden characters' artistic conception would also be greatly affected. If the sword stone was cut into 2, the essence realm contained in the 4 golden words would disappear completely. Naturally, Jian Wushuang would not be able to sense the existence of sword skills from the 4 golden words. He had no choice but to stay here like the principles masters and quietly meditate. Therefore, he could only choose one of the 4 sword skills to meditate so that he could make greater progress. As for which of the 4 sword skills to choose, Jian Wushuang hesitated for a moment and then made a decision. 3 of the 4 sword skills are offensive sword skills, but there is only one defensive sword skill. Obviously, defensive sword skills are much more difficult than offensive sword skills. Jian Wushuang understood that defensive sword skills were indeed much rarer than ordinary offensive sword skills. In addition, I'm most skilled in offensive swordsmanship. As for defensive swordsmanship, although I've created a sword technique, that sword technique isn't perfect and its level is very low. I can't use it at all. If I were to encounter a slightly stronger ruler, it would probably be able to easily defeat my defensive swordsmanship. Now that I have such a good opportunity in front of me, I can't miss it. I'll meditate on this defensive sword skill, and then perfect the defensive sword skill I created. Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled. He had made up his mind. Jian Wushuang immediately found a front seat under the sword stone and sat down cross-legged. Then he closed his eyes and began meditating. He was meditating on the word, Shi, in the 4 golden characters on the sword stone. As for the principal's masters, they had already sensed it when Jian Wushuang arrived, but they did not panic. After all, the opportunity in the sword stone was not the fight for the supreme treasures that had been born before. Only one person could get the supreme treasures, so the fight was naturally more intense. However, the opportunity in the sword stone could be obtained as long as one came here because no one could take it. Therefore, no one would attack anyone who came here as long as it did not interfere with their comprehension or if someone tried to destroy the sword stone. Everyone would just have to rely on their own abilities. Everything in front of the sword stone appeared very peaceful. Because the sword stone had just been born not long ago, not many people knew about it at first. Jian Wushuang also learned about the existence of the sword stone from the Blood Saber Emperor, but Taoist Shen God did not send a message to him. However, as time passed, more and more people knew about it. Naturally, more and more principal's masters came to the sword stone to meditate. The number of principal's masters in this star field was frightening, and there were many experts who were good at sword principle among the principal's masters. Now in the 3rd continent, the number of principal's masters who came to the sword stone was probably only a small part of the total number of principal's masters who were good at sword principle in the star field, but there were hundreds of them. Hundreds of people were meditating under the sword stone at the same time, so it was inevitable that some people would fight over it because of the distance between them and the sword stone. Those principal's masters who wanted to meditate under the sword stone naturally wanted to find a place closer to the sword stone. However, no matter how much they fought for a better place to meditate, no one would come to disturb Jian Wushuang's meditation. He sat cross-legged under the sword stone and was the closest to the sword stone, but no one dared to come forward and swap places with him. Endless and endless. This concept is like the life and death not of the reincarnation principles, but I can feel that the rules contained in this sword skill are far more than just the reincarnation principles. There are 7 or 8 principles of the earth principles, the water principles, the light principles, and the dark principles. Jian Wushuang was completely immersed in the comprehension of the body-protecting sword skill. As he comprehended, he became more and more shocked. He was shocked by the strength of the expert who had left the 4 sword skills. He had left a word casually, and the derived sword skill contained 7 or 8 principles at the same time, and they were all perfectly integrated. Moreover, this was only one sword skill. The other 3 sword skills contained all kinds of principles, and they were all integrated. In other words, the expert had grasped and fused at least a dozen principles. What did this mean? Perhaps that expert had comprehended the universe origin and had a very high understanding of the universe origin, so he directly understood many of the principles. But for me, the principles contained in this sword skill can be ignored. What I want to comprehend and understand is the essence of this body protection sword skill, or even master this essence, and then perfect my move, Earth Guard. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Earth Guard was the name of the protective sword skill that Jian Wushuang had comprehended in front of the Heaven Suppression Tablet for 5,000 years and combined with the Earth principles. This sword skill was still in its infancy and was far from being perfect. Moreover, his comprehension of the Earth principles was not very high. However, Jian Wushuang now felt that as long as he could comprehend some of the endless essence contained in this sword skill and integrate it into his sword skill, the power of his Earth Guard would be much stronger. Jian Wushuang had come into contact with and comprehended the endless essence. However, his understanding of this essence was not very high. At least, he was far inferior to the supreme expert who had left 4 ancient words on the sword stone. He could only continue to comprehend and improve it. In the Red Cloud world, the crazy competition continued. One universe supreme treasure after another was born in the various continents of the Red Cloud world. Countless experts killed crazily for it, and naturally countless experts died because of it. But for now, it had nothing to do with Jian Wushuang. He stayed under the sword stone and was completely immersed in the comprehension of the body-protecting sword skill. He had already sent a message to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, Temporal Temple Master, and the others. Unless there was something urgent or a supreme treasure was born, he should not come and disturb him. Right now, all he could think about was his Earth Guard move. In a flash, Jian Wushuang had been studying under the Sword Stone for 400 years. During these 400 years, many major events had happened in the Red Cloud world. The biggest one was the birth of a supreme true treasure on the first continent. A supreme true treasure was enough to make many rulers fight for it. In the 10,000 years in the Red Cloud world, there would definitely be more than one supreme true treasure. Everyone knew this, however. When the first supreme true treasure emerged, it still caused a bloody storm. Countless great beings participated in the battle. Even rulers were present. There were 3 of them, and the 3 rulers fought madly. In the end, the most powerful senior ruler took the supreme true treasure. He left. Although the ruler did not die in the battle, there were nearly 100 principals masters who died. The scene was terrifying. However, because the first continent was a certain distance away from Jian Wushuang's third continent, and even further away from the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, the 3 of them did not have time to participate in the battle. Jian Wushuang had also been meditating under the Sword Stone. During these 400 years of meditation, Jian Wushuang's progress had naturally been tremendous. The swordsmanship in the Sword Stone is really incredible. I have carefully studied it for 400 years, and I have made great progress in the principles of the earth. I have almost completely mastered the principles of the earth. As for the swordsmanship, I have been perfecting the move of the Earth Guard over the past 400 years. It's much more powerful than before. If I use this move now, I'm afraid that ordinary rulers would not be able to break it. As for the advanced rulers, it's hard to say whether they can break it. However, this move of mine still has a lot of room for improvement. I can continue to improve it. Jian Wushuang was extremely excited. After 400 years of meditation, he was looking forward to the Earth Guard move that he had created. He was very curious about the extent of the Earth Guard move if he continued to meditate and perfect it. But at this moment, Blood Sword Master, help! Come and save me! An anxious cry for help came from one of the tokens in Jian Wushuang's interspatial ring. Jian Wushuang's expression changed, and he took out the token. Master Gucci, what's going on? Jian Wushuang asked immediately. It's Pupil Master. On the other end of the token, Master Gucci said immediately, just now, I obtained a top-tier domain-type true treasure in a fight. I've already obtained it, and the fight has already ended. However, just as I was about to leave, Pupil Master rushed over and asked me to hand over the top-tier domain-type true treasure. If I refuse, Pupil Master will attack me directly. I can only rely on my trump card, the fire-cleansing formation, to survive. With Pupil Master's strength, it's only a matter of time before he breaks my formation. I understand. Jian Wushuang's expression became serious. Star Palace and the 3 Freedom Alliances had sent many experts into the Red Cloud world this time. These experts were scattered among the 7 continents. Jian Wushuang, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, and the Temporal Temple Master were on the 3rd continent, the 4th continent, and the 6th continent respectively. Therefore, they had long given orders if there was anything urgent in the 3 continents, they could directly send a message to them. Now that Master Gucci had encountered Pupil Master, he was in deep danger. Naturally, he would send a message to him at once. Master Gucci is one of the top experts in Star Palace. He has the strength of the pinnacle of the 6 realms and is very strong in life preservation. Once his strongest trump card, the fire-purging formation, was used, no one among the principal's masters could break it except for me and Blood Saber Emperor. But now, he has encountered Pupil Master. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Pupil Master was a genuine ruler-level expert and had been famous for a long time. Although he was only a primary ruler, his strength was extremely strong among primary rulers. No wonder Master Gucci had asked for help. In fact, under normal circumstances, a great ruler-level great being would not lower himself to deal with a principal's master. Unless there was a great benefit, or the other party had a treasure that made him envious. However, what Master Gucci had obtained was only a top-tier domain-type true treasure. Even if it was a top-tier domain-type true treasure, it was at most equivalent to a pinnacle true treasure. For such a true treasure, most rulers would not choose to lower their status to deal with principals masters. However, this pupil master was definitely one of the very few rulers in this star field who did not care about their status at all. Pupil master was notorious within this star field. He was a great being who traveled alone to begin with. He had no ties to anyone, and he did not even have a single disciple. Therefore, he had never cared about what others thought of him. He only knew how to do things his own way. Naturally, he had never cared about his own status. As long as it was a treasure that he fancied, he would not mind fighting for it, let alone a principal's master or even an immortal saint. For example, Master Gucci might not be interested in obtaining a top-tier domain-type supreme treasure, but such a treasure was very valuable. Even a ruler would not ignore it, therefore, he made his move right away. Master Gucci, pass me your current position, Jian Wushuang said. Master Gucci immediately passed his current position to Jian Wushuang. After comparing it on the star map, Jian Wushuang immediately made a decision. I'm more than 50 million miles away from your position. It'll take me some time to arrive at such a long distance even if I travel at full speed. Master Gucci, try your best to use your fire cleansing formation to stall this pupil master until I arrive. However, if your fire cleansing formation reaches its limit before I arrive and can't hold on any longer, you can give him the top-tier domain-type true treasure. It's just a top-tier domain-type true treasure. If you can't, then give it up. Don't lose your life over it, Jian Wushuang warned. Yes, I'll try my best to stall him. Master Gucci gritted his teeth. Jian Wushuang did not waste any more time. He immediately rushed toward Master Gucci's position. Jian Wushuang pushed his speed to the maximum along the way. He had no choice. This time he was not going to fight for a true treasure, but to save his life. To him, a top-tier domain-type true treasure was nothing, but Master Gucci's life was different. Although Star Palace had many great beings under its command, there were not many principals masters who had reached the 6th level or above. As for those who had reached the pinnacle of the 6th realm, including Master Gucci, there were only 2 of them. Naturally, these 2 pinnacle of the 6th realm were very important to Star Palace. If one of them died, it would be a great loss to Star Palace. On the 3rd continent, in a vast blood-colored void, boom boom, be-boom, endless pure white flames burned wildly, covering the surrounding void that was over 10,000 meters wide. This void that was over 10,000 meters wide had completely sunk into a sea of pure white flames, and in the middle of the sea of flames, bang, 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 numerous intense explosions rang out continuously, shaking the world. Ha ha! This lord has underestimated an ant like you. This fire formation of yours is quite unique. Even this lord would find it difficult to break it in a short period of time. A cold laughter reverberated in the world. A towering blood-colored figure stood in the middle of the pure white sea of fire. This blood-colored figure was surrounded by a dense blood cloud. The blood cloud rolled and an endless killing aura spread out. This blood-colored figure was Pupil Master. Not far in front of Pupil Master, in the center of this pure white sea of fire, Master Gucci gritted his teeth, and his expression was quite unsightly. Pupil Master, I've already sent a message to my Lord Palace Master. Lord Palace Master and Temporal Temple Master will be here soon. If you're smart, then leave quickly. Otherwise, when my Lord Palace Master arrives, Master Gucci shouted in a low voice. Ha ha! Your Palace Master? Pupil Master looked at Master Gucci mockingly. Kid, don't think that I don't know anything about this star field just because I've been traveling alone. I know very well that your Palace Master didn't come to the Red Cloud world this time. As for the Temporal Temple Master you mentioned, he's on the 4th continent now. How could he make it here in time? It's impossible for them to get here. Even if they do, what can they do? I, Master, have ruled this universe for so many years. I'm not even afraid of a senior ruler. Why would I care about Star Palace Palace Master and Temporal Temple Master? What a joke! Kid, I advise you to stop struggling and give me that top-tier domain-type true treasure and the array you're using right now. I might spare your life. Otherwise, when I break this array, you'll die." Pupil Master's words made Master Gucci's face turn extremely ugly. He had not expected Pupil Master to be so shameless. Not only had he attacked him, a Principal's Master, for a top-tier domain-type true treasure, but now that he had seen the cleansing fire array he had used, he even wanted him to hand over the array as well. This cleansing fire array was his strongest trump card, and it was also his strongest reliance. He had gotten this array many years ago when he was adventuring in Quicksand Demon Realm. He had been lucky enough to get it. Over the years, this array had saved his life more than once. To him, this array was far more important than that top-tier domain-type true treasure. Now, Pupil Master wanted him to hand over this array as well? How was that possible? He would rather die than hand it over. Now, he could only hope that Blood Sword Master would arrive earlier. Although he did not know Jian Wushuang's true strength, judging from his position in Star Palace and the attitudes of Taoist Shen God, Temporal Temple Master, and the others toward him, Jian Wushuang was not much weaker than the ruler. The difference was not too great. As long as he arrived and joined hands with him, he should be able to stop Pupil Master. "Humph, you're so stubborn. Since you don't want to hand it over, then die." Pupil Master's voice was cold, and the terrifying blood cloud rolled. It rushed toward the pure white sea of fire crazily with a shocking power. Master Gucci could only rely on the magic formation to resist it. However, as Pupil Master's true strength erupted, his pressure naturally increased sharply. As time passed, it became more and more difficult for him to resist it. The fire-cleansing magic formation gradually reached its limit. "Damn it! Why isn't Blood Sword Master here yet?" Master Gucci's face was completely distorted. He could already sense that the fire-cleansing formation could not hold on any longer. He could only grit his teeth and continue to resist, praying that Jian Wushuang would arrive earlier. However, they were 50 million miles away. Even if Jian Wushuang rushed at full speed, it would still take some time. There were many Principal's Masters gathered in the void around the pure white fire sea. Many of them had participated in the fight for the top-tier domain-type true treasure. Some of them had sensed the huge commotion and rushed over. These Principal's Masters stood in the void around the fire-cleansing formation and watched the scene from afar. When they saw that Master Gucci had been pushed to his limit by Pupil Master, many Principal's Masters could not help but sigh. This Master Gucci is already extremely powerful, and he has a life-saving trump card like the cleansing fire formation. Logically speaking, he should be able to do as he pleases as long as he doesn't run into a ruler. I didn't expect his luck to be so bad. He just so happened to run into a ruler, and it was this Pupil Master who didn't care about his status at all. This Master Gucci is really unlucky. We all know I Master's temper and personality. Anyone who is targeted by him will have a headache. There's nothing we can do. Unless this Master Gucci hands over that top-tier domain-type true treasure and his purifying fire array, he'll probably die. That top-tier domain-type true treasure is still fine. Anyway, he just got it. Just take it as bad luck and hand it over. The problem is that Master is still interested in his purifying fire array. Everyone knows that this purifying fire array is Master Gucci's strongest trump card. Why would Master Gucci hand over such a treasure? You're right. If it were me, I wouldn't hand it over either. Many Principal's Masters were discussing among themselves. Most of them sympathized with Master Gucci and felt that he was unlucky. As time passed, the spectators could clearly feel that Master Gucci could not hold on any longer. At this moment, Jian Wushuang was still more than 20 million miles away from the void. It would take him a while to arrive. "Ha-ha! Boy, you can't hold on any longer, can you?" Wanton laughter echoed in the world. Rumble. The world shook and endless power burst out, shattering the pure white sea of fire that covered tens of thousands of miles on the battlefield. The sea of fire finally could not withstand the impact of the terrifying power and dissipated directly. The fire-cleansing formation of Master Gucci was directly destroyed by Master. Without the obstruction of the fire-cleansing formation, with Master Gucci's strength, he would not be able to face I Master head-on. When they realized this, many people around them secretly sighed. Even Master Gucci himself let out a miserable laugh, a trace of despair in his eyes. However, just as I Master was about to attack and directly kill Master Gucci, a human figure had unknowingly appeared around this area of the void. It's quite lively here. A low chuckle with a hint of playfulness sounded in the area. This low chuckle attracted the attention of everyone present. Even Pupil Master, who was about to make a move, stopped what he was doing and looked at the person. When he saw the person's appearance clearly, Pupil Master could not help but frown. The person was a strange old man with a scarlet cape. The old man had a thin face and a hooked nose. His eyes were very small, like those of a mouse. He even narrowed his eyes slightly, giving off an extremely shrewd look. The teasing smile on the old man's lips made his entire person appear a little more evil. The aura on this strange old man's body was actually not very strong. It was very obvious that he was only at the level of a principal's master. However, they were both principal's masters. Pupil Master did not put that Master Gucci in his eyes at all. However, when he saw this strange old man, Pupil Master frowned slightly. Dark Bone. It's Elder Dark Bone. Among the principal's masters in this star field, Elder Darkbone is said to have the most skills and the strongest survival ability. It's him. The principal's masters around the battlefield were all shocked when they saw this weird old man. Elder Darkbone was too famous in this star field. In the eyes of many experts in this star field, if one wanted to choose the strongest principal's master, it would undoubtedly be decided between the Bloodsword Master and the Bloodsaber Emperor. However, if they were talking about the most troublesome principal's master, 99% of the people would immediately think of this Elder Darkbone. This Elder Darkbone was famous for his many tricks and was extremely difficult to deal with. He had faced many ruler-level experts on more than one occasion. He had even faced high-level rulers directly. The other party had used all of his tricks, but he was still unable to do anything to him. He had even dared to scheme against rulers in this star field. Because of this, he had offended quite a few rulers, but so far he was still alive and well. Such a person, even though he was only a ruler of principles, even the current pupil master did not dare to directly ignore his existence. Dark Bone, what are you doing here? The pupil master was not in a hurry to act. Instead, he turned his head and asked, "This old man just happened to pass by and happened to see you, a high and mighty ruler, acting against a principal's master without any regard for your status. That's why I came here to take a look." Elder Darkbone laughed. Just to take a look? Pupil Master's voice was low. Originally, I just wanted to take a look. However, after seeing that the person you are dealing with is this Master Gucci, this old man changed his mind. Elder Darkbone said, "What do you mean?" Pupil Master's expression sank. "This Master Gucci has nothing to do with me. However, my relationship with the people from Star Palace is quite good. So I can only let you give me some face, Pupil Master," Elder Darkbone said with a faint smile. Once these words were said, the surrounding people were all stunned. Even Master Gucci himself was incomparably shocked. Elder Darkbone said these words, clearly intending to interfere in this matter. "Darkbone, you want me to give you face? Humph, you are only a mere principal's master. What right do you have to ask me to give you face?" Pupil Master shouted. "It's fine. Since you don't want to give me face, Pupil Master, then let's see if you have the ability to kill Master Gucci right under my nose." Elder Darkbone laughed casually. However, this laughter contained absolute confidence. Pupil Master narrowed his eyes slightly. The entire world fell silent. Suddenly, shio! A stream of light flashed, and Pupil Master attacked with lightning speed. A terrifying ruler-level aura instantly covered and pressed down on Master Gucci's body, and his speed reached its peak. Clearly, he was planning to use his fastest speed to kill Master Gucci before Elder Darkbone reached his limit. However, the moment Pupil took the initiative to move, Elder Darkbone, who was standing at the edge, suddenly moved. He simply moved, but it felt as if he had teleported directly across the battlefield. Before Pupil Master appeared in front of Master Gucci, Elder Darkbone's figure blocked in front of him. You're courting death. Pupil Master's face was cold, and the killing intent in his eyes rose sharply. He held a long red rod in one hand. This long rod emitted an incomparably dense destructive aura as it smashed toward Elder Darkbone in a mighty manner. Elder Darkbone was not afraid at all when he saw this. He waved his hand, and a cold blade light slashed out directly as if it was splitting the heavens and earth apart. Bang! The two collided head-on. Pupil Master was a mighty ruler-level expert after all, and in terms of power, he was far stronger than Elder Darkbone. This collision had shattered that blade light at the first instant. Even Elder Darkbone's entire body was forced back a few steps. TSK, as expected of a ruler. Elder Darkbone stood up steadily, but his face was still smiling. His aura did not weaken at all. Darkbone, since you intend to get involved in this mess, then you should follow Master Gucci and die together. Pupil Master's killing intent soared. You still want to kill me? Elder Darkbone chuckled. It's not that I'm arrogant, but in this star field, aside from those few apex rulers, no one else can kill me. As soon as he finished speaking, Elder Darkbone's body suddenly flashed, and in an instant, hundreds of thousands of figures of Elder Darkbone appeared in the void. These hundreds of thousands of old monsters all had the same appearance, demeanor, and aura. The many Principles Masters who were watching the battle immediately used their soul energy to cover the area, but none of them could tell which one was Elder Darkbone's true body. An illusion? Humph! It's just a small trick. Pupil Master snorted coldly and waved his sleeve. Immediately, majestic godly power condensed in front of him, turning into godly power spikes that instantly shot out in all directions. These godly power spikes were densely packed and passed through hundreds and thousands of Elder Darkbone's figures, but they didn't cause any ripples at all. What? Pupil Master's face changed. Is his real body not among these figures? Is he hiding with the escape art? No, if he really used the escape art, he shouldn't be able to hide from my soul power. Pupil Master's eyes focused. The escape art could hide from the soul power of a cultivator. Jian Wushuang had practiced the shadowless evasive skill. However, this kind of evasive skill could be easily seen by an ordinary expert, but it could be seen by a real expert. As for Pupil Master, he was a ruler-level expert. If a Principles Master really used the evasive skill, it would be impossible to hide from him. In this case, it meant that Elder Darkbone's original body was indeed among the hundreds of figures, but he could not find it and could not attack it. Humph! Even if I can't find your true body, my target isn't you in the first place. Pupil Master snorted softly, following which, his body swayed, choosing to ignore Elder Darkbone and continue to charge toward Master Gucci. However, just as his body moved, I already said that it's impossible for you to kill Master Gucci under my nose. You just won't believe it. A mocking voice suddenly sounded beside Pupil Master, and the figure of Elder Darkbone, who was the closest to Pupil Master, directly waved the battle saber in his hand. This saber immediately slashed out a streak of light in the air, directly flashing toward Pupil Master's head. Pupil Master's figure had no choice but to immediately retreat, returning to where he had been standing before. Once again looking at the hundreds and thousands of figures of Elder Darkbone, Pupil Master's expression had already become extremely unsightly. Although Elder Darkbone had only revealed a portion of his techniques during the short exchange of blows, this portion of his techniques had already caused Pupil Master to feel that it was extremely difficult to deal with. Just like what Elder Darkbone had said, if it was not for his consent, it was utterly impossible for Pupil Master to kill Master Gucci right under his nose. Elder Darkbone, are you really going to go against me? Pupil Master shouted sternly. Go against you? Elder Darkbone deliberately pondered for a moment before saying, Actually, I don't have to stop you. Pupil Master's expression changed. Not far behind Elder Darkbone, Master Gucci was shocked. Pupil Master, you may not know this, but I have been in Red Cloud World for some time, and my luck is not very good. But so far, I have only obtained 2 true treasures, and they are only elementary true treasures. The gains are really not that great, said Elder Darkbone. Pupil Master's pupils constricted. He glanced at Elder Darkbone and said in a low voice, "Just tell me what you want. It's simple. A top-tier true treasure armor." "I won't care about it anymore," said Elder Darkbone with a smile. His words immediately caused a commotion in the surrounding void space. This Elder Darkbone is really daring. He dares to directly threaten Pupil Master and ask for a true treasure from Pupil Master. Among Principal's masters, I'm afraid only he, Elder Darkbone, dares to do that. That's normal. Elder Darkbone is famous for his many tricks. He has strong life-saving abilities, and he is extremely difficult to deal with. If he doesn't want to give way, Pupil Master really can't do anything to that idiotic master. Besides, Elder Darkbone has lived for so many years, and he has offended many rulers. He doesn't even care about a senior ruler, so why would he care about a mere Pupil Master? I have to say, a Principal's master dared to ask a ruler for a true treasure so directly. This Elder Darkbone is indeed admirable. Most of the Principal's masters around felt a trace of excitement and admiration in their hearts. It must be known that Principal's masters and rulers were a huge watershed. Rulers were high and mighty, and Principal's masters were nothing more than ants in front of rulers. The Principal's masters who had been adventuring in this star field had long been used to rulers being high and mighty. However, when they saw a ruler being defeated by a Principal's master, they naturally felt relieved and comfortable. Pupil Master's face was extremely gloomy. Sometimes he didn't care about his status or face, but a ruler was threatened by a Principal's master and asked for a true treasure in front of so many people, he still felt embarrassed. He stared at Elder Darkbone, but he hesitated. It's not about face but benefits. It's just a top-tier true treasure armor. It's not that valuable. The top-tier domain-type true treasure that Ancient Chi Master just got is comparable to 2 or 3 top-tier true treasure armor, and his purifying fire array is quite mysterious. It's probably more valuable than a normal pinnacle true treasure. If I kill him, I'll get more benefits than a top-tier true treasure armor. The most important thing is that Master Gucci has something that my treasure craves. Pupil Master narrowed his eyes and glanced at Master Gucci from the corner of his eye. Everyone thought that he did not care about his status to kill Master Gucci just to get the top-tier domain-type true treasure that Master Gucci had just obtained and the cleansing fire array. But in reality, it was not that simple. Pupil Master had an extremely special treasure on him. And Master Gucci had something that special treasure desired, and that was the most important reason. No matter what, I have to kill Master Gucci and get his universe ring. As for a top-tier true treasure armor, it's nothing. Pupil Master had made up his mind. He waved his hand, and a silver armor that gave off the aura of a top-tier true treasure flew toward Elder Darkbone. Elder Darkbone reached out and took it. After sensing it with his consciousness, he nodded slightly. As expected of a ruler, he has an extraordinary family background. He's very generous. Darkbone, I've given you the top-tier true treasure armor. Now, can you move aside? Pupil Master asked in a low voice. No rush. Elder Darkbone still shook his head. Darkbone. Pupil Master was furious. Haha. Don't be so angry yet. Elder Darkbone smiled. Since you've already given me the top-tier true treasure armor, then I'll keep my promise and stay out of this matter. I'm not in a hurry to leave. I just want to ask you, Pupil Master. You don't care about your identity, and you even gave me a top-tier true treasure armor to kill Master Gucci. Is it really for the top-tier domain-type true treasure in Master Gucci's hands? Humph, said Pupil Master. A top-tier domain-type true treasure armor isn't worth it. However, the array that Master Gucci used to block me is quite special. I'm interested in it. Oh, is that all? Darkbone looked at Pupil Master strangely. What do you think? Pupil Master tried to suppress the anger in his heart. Elder Darkbone raised his eyebrows and did not think any further. Actually, there was not much to think about. Pupil Master was famous in this star field for not caring about his status. It was normal for him to set his eyes on Master Gucci and want the treasures in Master Gucci's hands. It was not suspicious at all. If that's the case, then this old man will step aside now. You can do whatever you want from now on. Although this old man will step aside, if you still can't kill Master Gucci later, then you can't blame this old man. Elder Dark Bone said playfully. Humph, as long as you're not in the way, if this seat wants to kill Master Gucci, then no one can stop it. Pupil Master snorted. Is that so? That might not be the case. Elder Dark Bone grinned. His soul power had already sensed the arrival of a person. Master Gucci, who was behind Elder Dark Bone, had also received the message. His face also revealed a trace of joy. In the void not far away, a figure had appeared and was rushing toward the void at the fastest speed. Elder Darkbone had just stepped aside, and before Pupil Master could continue to attack Master Gucci, the figure had already arrived at the center of the void and stood beside Master Gucci. Master Gucci, are you okay? Jian Wushuang asked. I'm fine. Fortunately, Master Netherbone acted in time and stopped Pupil Master for a while. Otherwise, I would have died and would not have waited for you to arrive. Blood Sword Master, Master Gucci said. Jian Wushuang glanced around and saw Elder Dark Bone. He immediately smiled and said, Thank you, Elder Dark Bone. Don't mention it. I just wanted to get a top-tier Supreme Treasure armor, not because of you or the people from your Star Palace. Elder Dark Bone said with a smile. When the people around saw Jian Wushuang's arrival, they became excited again. Blood Sword Master is the Blood Sword Master of Star Palace. Blood Sword Master is the most powerful Principles Master in our star field. I've heard that he also roams the third continent. Now it seems that he must have received a request from Master Gucci to come here. Blood Sword Master is here. This is going to be a good show. However, can Blood Sword Master deal with Pupil Master with his strength alone? It's hard to say. Although Blood Sword Master is very strong and invincible among Principles Masters, he doesn't have the endless means like Elder Darkbone. I think it's very difficult for him to face a ruler head-on. Many Principles Masters who were watching the battle discussed among themselves. Their impression of Jian Wushuang remained the same as more than 10,000 years ago, when he defeated 5 Principles Masters head-on in Devil Smoke Valley. In that battle, although Jian Wushuang showed his invincible strength as a Principles Master, he was still on a different level compared to a ruler. Therefore, most people were full of doubts about whether Jian Wushuang could deal with Pupil Master. Elder Dark Bone, let's catch up later. Let me get rid of Pupil Master first, Jian Wushuang said with a bright smile. Okay, but Pupil Master is not weak. You have to be careful, Elder Dark Bone said with a faint smile. However, Jian Wushuang looked extremely relaxed. As for the Pupil Master, when he saw Jian Wushuang, he was stunned for some reason. Yes, he was stunned. He was not surprised by Jian Wushuang's sudden arrival, but because of the special treasure on his body. For some reason, when Jian Wushuang arrived and appeared in the void in front of him, the special treasure on his body went completely crazy. It was an unprecedented excitement and desire. It was like a wolf that had been hungry for 10 days and 10 nights suddenly seeing a sheep. The treasure on his body was so hot and crazy at this moment. What's going on? What on earth is on Blood Sword Master's body that makes my treasure so excited and crazy? It's crazy. I've never seen it so excited and eager since I got it. Pupil Master's eyes instantly became extremely hot. However, he quickly covered up the heat. In the void, Elder Darkbone had moved to the side, leaving only Jian Wushuang, Master Gucci, and Pupil Master standing there. Jian Wushuang and Master Gucci naturally stood together. Blood Sword Master. This Pupil Master is indeed very powerful. He is definitely one of the strongest among the primary rulers. He has broken my strongest trump card, the Fire Purging Formation. I won't be able to use it again in a short time. With his speed, it will be difficult for us to escape from him. So, I'm afraid you and I have to work together to find a way to deal with him, Master Gucci said. Without the Fire Cleansing Formation, Master Gucci would not be able to deal with Pupil Master. However, he knew that Blood Sword Master was very strong, so there was still a chance for them to survive if they worked together. However, after hearing his words, Jian Wushuang waved his hand and said, Master Gucci, you can leave. Leave Pupil Master to me. Leave him to you alone? Master Guqi was stunned. I'm enough. Jian Wushuang was very confident. Leave him alone. Master Guqi's eyes narrowed slightly. He glanced at Jian Wushuang and did not think much about it. Instead, he rushed toward the void behind him. Seeing this, Pupil Master had no intention of stopping him. After Jian Wushuang came to this void, Pupil Master only had Jian Wushuang in his eyes. He did not care about Master Guqi anymore. Even if Master Guqi turned around and ran away, he would not chase after him anymore. For him, Jian Wushuang was now his first target. Blood Sword Master, the most powerful principles master in this star field. Pupil Master grinned. He glanced at Master Guqi behind him, and the smile on his face grew wider. It seems that you plan to deal with me alone. Humph, you're really arrogant. Arrogant. Jian Wushuang only smiled faintly, but there was a trace of excitement in his heart. It was not his fault that he was excited. After all, since he broke through to the Principles Master level and his Strength Sword, he had never really fought a fair fight with a ruler-level expert. Although he had fought with the Heaven Rock Ruler, fought with the Heaven Ancestor, and even killed 3 rulers in the Divine Beginning Realm. However, he had only passively blocked 3 attacks from the Heaven Rock Ruler. The Heaven Ancestor had only sparred with him so that he had a basic understanding of his strength. As for the 3 rulers killed in the Divine Beginning Realm, they were restricted by the Heavenly Tao and could not display their strength. Therefore, he had never fought with a ruler who could unleash his full strength. Until now, Pupil Master was standing in front of him. Pupil Master, in this star field, he is a primary ruler who stands at the top. Information about Pupil Master flashed in Jian Wushuang's mind. Pupil Master was not only powerful, but he also had many treasures. It was said that not only did he have a supreme true treasure magic weapon, but he also had a supreme true treasure armor. Moreover, his life-saving ability was not weak. Even if he encountered an advanced ruler, he would not be afraid. Such a powerful ruler was a suitable opponent for Jian Wushuang. This is the first time I have fought a ruler-level expert in the universe battlefield, and there are so many people watching. I'll use Pupil Master to show my power in this battle. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a sharp light, and he immediately shouted, Pupil Master, hand over the 3 supreme treasures, and we'll forget about today's matter. Otherwise, my blood sword and the rulers of Star Palace will chase you to the ends of the earth. This shout, which contained a magnificent power, suddenly exploded in the world. The void became quiet. Silence. Everyone was silent. They stared at Jian Wushuang with wide eyes. They had just said that Blood Sword Master and Master Guqi would join hands to stop Pupil Master. But who would have thought that Blood Sword Master would demand Pupil Master to hand over 3 supreme true treasures? He must not have figured out the situation on the battlefield yet, right? Even Master Guqi was at a loss at this moment. Kid, how dare you? Pupil Master was so angry that he started to laugh, and his entire face was contorted. He did not say any more nonsense, and he immediately made his move. Rumble. The mighty divine power of a ruler formed a huge prison, pressing down on Jian Wushuang from all directions. The divine power was like a prison. The divine power of a ruler was countless times stronger than that of a principles master. Under normal circumstances, a principles master would not be able to withstand the divine power of a ruler. Under the pressure of the majestic divine might, Pupil Master took a step forward and instantly crossed the void to arrive in front of Jian Wushuang. The red long staff in his hand brought with it an earth-shaking destructive aura as it smashed down angrily. The terrifying power contained in it caused spatial ripples to appear in the void of the red cloud world. These spatial ripples intersected and spread wildly in all directions. Clang! Jian Wushuang drew his sword. An extremely cold and terrifying sword essence instantly swept through the heaven and earth. The vast void fell into a freezing cold because the divine sword was unsheathed. The coldness was like a knife. Even though they were far away, it still scraped the faces of the principles masters present. That sword! The eyes of everyone watching the battle instantly focused on the black divine sword in Jian Wushuang's hand that exuded a cold and terrifying aura. It was the Netherworld sword. The strongest universe supreme treasure. This blood sword master has a supreme treasure. There was an uproar in the surrounding void. Even among rulers, many did not have supreme treasures. However, Jian Wushuang, a principal's master, had a supreme treasure in his hand. No one had expected that. Even Pupil Master was extremely surprised when he saw the divine sword that Jian Wushuang took out. Although he was surprised, Pupil Master still did not put Jian Wushuang in his eyes. Humph, so what if you have the most powerful universe supreme treasure? You're still just an ant. Pupil Master's eyes flashed with a fierce light. The red long staff that he threw out trembled slightly, and its power instantly increased dramatically. I won't rest until I die. Jian Wushuang directly threw out his sword. A sword light filled with endless hatred, and hatred instantly went toward the red long staff. This sword light not only contained terrifying power, but it also contained a trace of sword principle universe origin, which instantly raised the power of sword arts to a whole new level. Clang! When the two collided head-on, an electric arc flashed and then disappeared. What? Pupil Master was shocked. From the sword light that Jian Wushuang displayed, he could feel an extremely strong power that was not weaker than his. Whoosh! Pupil Master immediately retreated, and Jian Wushuang also retreated. Humph! After he stabilized himself, Pupil Master's eyes turned cold again. He held the long staff in both hands, and his destructive aura burst out. The blood cloud around him also rose to the maximum. His aura was much stronger than before. His body swayed, and he charged toward Jian Wushuang again. Jian Ruhong. Jian Wushuang held the sword in one hand and pointed it at Pupil Master. He did not intend to retreat at all. He faced the attack head-on. Clang, clang, bang. Heavy clashing sounds could be heard, and the sound of power colliding kept ringing out. In the center of the battlefield, two figures were frantically clashing, and terrifying power was wildly spreading out in all directions. The fierce battle between the two was clearly at a white-hot stage. The surrounding principal's masters who were watching the battle had long since been stunned. A battle between rulers. This is a battle between rulers. That blood sword master is actually going to face a ruler head-on? How is this possible? Exclamations sounded in the surrounding void. Unlike Elder Darkbone, who relied on special methods to fight against each other, Jian Wushuang was fighting against Pupil Master head-on. A principal's master was fighting against a ruler and a very strong ruler. How could they be evenly matched? Ruler battle power. This blood sword master already has ruler battle power. Everyone immediately understood this point. To be able to fight head-on with an extremely powerful ruler to such an extent, his strength must be at the ruler level. Hong! Another intense explosion sounded, and the two figures in the void finally separated. Blood Sword Master, I have underestimated you. I didn't expect that a mere principal's master like you would actually possess the battle prowess of a ruler. Pupil Master's eyes were already filled with blood threads, and there was a faint madness in them. But even so, you don't have the right to act so arrogantly in front of me. Die! Pupil Master's killing intent soared to the skies. At the moment he moved, the large blood cloud around him condensed crazily, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a towering three-headed demon god. The three-headed demon god also held a red long staff in his hand, and as Pupil Master moved, he launched a powerful attack. It was the same staff skill, but when the three-headed demon god condensed it, its power was at least twice as strong as before. Is this your real strength? Jian Wushuang curled his lips slightly, not surprised at all. Pupil Master was able to make such a name for himself in this star field, so his strength was certainly not just that. Unfortunately, this strength is not enough. Jian Wushuang focused his eyes and immediately used his life divine power and heaven-cleaving skill. When these two secret skills were used at the same time, the power of Jian Wushuang's divine power instantly increased by 3 times. The divine power of 3 times the power of a primary ruler had barely reached the threshold of an advanced ruler. Kill! Jian Wushuang was not afraid at all. He relied on his secret skills to greatly increase his strength and once again fought against his opponent. The two once again engaged in a frenzied battle. Jian Wushuang fully displayed his understanding of the universe origin of sword principle. Each of his sword moves contained the universe origin of sword principle. His swordsmanship was extremely profound and powerful. Although Pupil Master's staff skill was also powerful, he did not comprehend the universe origin and was obviously inferior to Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship in the occult. As for the power, although he had used a secret skill and his power had greatly increased, he was at most on par with Jian Wushuang. The power was equal, but Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship had a great advantage. Therefore, Pupil Master was actually at a disadvantage in this fight. How could this be? Pupil Master, who was madly fighting with Jian Wushuang, was shocked and in disbelief. I've already used my strongest strength, but I still can't take him down. I'm even at a disadvantage? How is this possible? How could a mere principles master be so strong? Pupil Master was completely shocked by Jian Wushuang's strength. He was not the only one. The principles masters watching the battle were also stunned. No one had expected that Bloodsword Master, who was only a principles master, would not only be able to fight Pupil Master head-on, but he would also be able to gain the upper hand even if Pupil Master unleashed his full strength. Bloodsword Master could no longer have the battle strength of a ruler, but his battle strength had already surpassed most of the primary rulers, including Pupil Master, who was a top existence among the primary rulers in terms of battle strength. He was clearly inferior to Bloodsword Master. Pupil Master, is this your strongest strength? Jian Wushuang stared at Pupil Master with a cold gaze. Humph! How dare you bully my star palace with such strength? Hand over 3 pinnacle true treasures honestly, or I'll teach you a lesson today. How dare you? Pupil Master was extremely shocked and angry. However, no matter how shocked and angry he was, the strength Jian Wushuang displayed was indeed slightly stronger than his. Suddenly, Pupil Master flashed a sharp light. He snorted and said, "Boy, I admit that I underestimated you and your star palace. I didn't expect a monster like you to appear in the star palace. You're just a principles master, but your battle strength is stronger than that of an ordinary ruler. However, you want me to lower my head and hand over 3 pinnacle true treasures? Dream on. So what if you are slightly stronger than me? What can you do to me?" Pupil Master was fearless. He admitted that Jian Wushuang was slightly stronger than him. However, he was only slightly stronger. He could not even suppress him, so how could he be afraid? You won't lower your head, right? Then I'll beat you until you lower your head. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold. He took a step forward, and a terrifying power suddenly condensed on the netherworld divine sword in his hand. Whoosh! He slashed out, and the void turned into chaos. There was no sound of explosion or air explosion. At this moment, Jian Wushuang's sword did not seem to have any terrifying power. However, when the divine sword fell, a cold sword light mercilessly cut through space, mercilessly tearing apart everything in front of it, and mercilessly slashing toward Pupil Master. Sword skill, fall to the netherworld. With one sword move, it was the blue fall to the netherworld. This sword move was the astonishing sword skill that had forcefully broken through the sword skill system of Di Shirsan when they were fighting. Not only was this swordsmanship extremely powerful, but it also contained a trace of the aura of the universe's principles. The aura of the universe's principles was very weak at first, but after Jian Wushuang had comprehended it under the Heaven Suppression Tablet for 5,000 years, he performed it again. The aura of the universe's principles contained in the swordsmanship was obviously much stronger than before. The power of the swordsmanship was also much stronger than before. The swordsmanship alone contained more universe origin of sword principle. The level of the swordsmanship could no longer be measured by the level of the absolute art, but it was undoubtedly Jian Wushuang's strongest move. The strongest move was directed at Pupil Master. At the same time, Jian Wushuang used the power of the will given by the universe principles. After all, the power of the will given by the universal principles was unique. It could double the basic power of Jian Wushuang's full strength. In other words, when Jian Wushuang used the life divine power and the heaven-cleaving skill, the power of his divine power was 3 times that of a primary ruler. Now, when he used the power of the will, it was 6 times that of a primary ruler. 6 times. How amazing was that? Boom! The shocking sword light tore everything apart mercilessly. Pupil Master seemed to have sensed the extraordinary power of Jian Wushuang's sword. He focused his eyes and held the red long staff with both hands. The three-headed demon god behind him let out a shrill roar. Then the long staff suddenly enlarged and smashed straight out. In the blink of an eye, it collided with the sword light. Clang! A metallic sound rang out. The moment the red long staff made contact with the sword light, it immediately changed the direction of the shocking power contained in the sword light. The pupil master's entire body was unsteady. The merciless sword light continued to slash at the pupil master. In the end, it slashed at pupil master's divine body without any obstruction. Pooh! A large mouthful of fresh blood violently spurted out of pupil master's mouth. This fresh blood dyed the armor on his body red. Pupil master's face turned a few shades paler, and his figure was in an incomparably miserable state as he retreated explosively. This scene caused the surrounding principal's masters watching the battle to be flabbergasted. He spat out blood? A dignified pupil master fought head-on with this blood sword master, and in the end, he was smashed by blood sword master's sword until he spat out blood? He didn't succeed in his sneak attack, but in a head-on fight, he defeated pupil master's attack and smashed pupil master until he spat out blood. The many principal's masters present could not believe what they were seeing. There was nothing they could do. The scene before their eyes was simply too unbelievable. The difference between a ruler and a principal's master was simply too great. Anyone below a ruler was an ant, and this was something that was publicly acknowledged. However, the scene before their eyes completely broke common sense. A principal's master was comparable to a ruler and could even defeat a ruler. Did they not see that pupil master had been beaten until he vomited blood by blood sword master? At this moment, pupil master was also stunned. How could he be so powerful? Pupil master stared at Jian Wushuang with a horrified expression. Others did not know his strength and trump card, but he knew it very well. After using a secret skill and 3 demon gods appeared around him, his strength could even fight with an advanced ruler in a short time. With such strength, he was completely crushed by his opponent with his strongest strike. Even when his opponent destroyed his attack, he was also smashed to the point that he vomited blood. Although it was not a big deal for a ruler to spit out 2 mouthfuls, and the consumption of divine power was not too great, it meant that the residual power of Jian Wushuang's sword had hurt him. He defeated my attack, but the power of his sword can still hurt me? Pupil master's heart was in turmoil. After all, he was wearing the Supreme True Treasure armor. With the protection of the Supreme True Treasure armor, he was still injured by the residual power of Jian Wushuang's sword. What did this mean? It meant that the power of Jian Wushuang's sword was incredible. Only the top few advanced rulers could perform such a powerful attack. Blood Sword Master's battle strength is much stronger than ordinary advanced rulers. Pupil Master's heart finally began to tremble. Pupil Master had roamed the 3 battlefields for many years. He had faced many advanced rulers. However, with his strength and his Supreme True Treasure armor, those advanced rulers could not do anything to him. It would be as difficult as ascending to heaven to hurt him. However, Jian Wushuang's sword attack had made Pupil Master understand that Jian Wushuang's strongest battle strength was definitely stronger than most senior rulers. Only the top few senior rulers could unleash such power. Only then could he defeat his attack and hurt him through the Supreme Treasure armor. Such strength was enough to make Pupil Master feel fear. Unlike Pupil Master and everyone else who were shocked, Jian Wushuang frowned slightly when he saw Pupil Master spit out blood. He did not expect that he would only barely make Pupil Master spit out blood after displaying his strongest move. He did not expend much of his divine power. The Supreme True Treasure armor is indeed incomparable to ordinary Pinnacle True Treasure armor, Jian Wushuang thought. He knew that if Pupil Master did not have Supreme Treasure armor and only had Supreme Treasure armor, his sword attack with the Netherworld Divine Sword would have severely injured him. At least 10 to 20% of his divine power would have been consumed, but the divine power consumed by Pupil Master was negligible. With the protection of Supreme Treasure armor, I can't kill him alone. Jian Wushuang understood this. But then he snorted and said, "Even if I can't kill him, I have to teach him a lesson." Jian Wushuang's face was cold, and he attacked again with shocking power. Jian Wushuang hated Pupil Master a little. As a ruler, he did not care about his identity and attacked the principal's master without any reason. Such a person who did not care about his own reputation was despised. Moreover, it was not the first time that Pupil Master had provoked Star Palace. Jian Wushuang had read that during his time in the 3 battlefields, Pupil Master had attacked experts from Star Palace several times. He had even made Star Palace suffer a setback and paid a great price. However, because Pupil Master was strong and had the protection of the supreme true treasure armor, Star Palace had been unable to do anything to him. They could only be angry but did not dare to say anything. Unexpectedly, Pupil Master had become even worse. This time in the Red Cloud world, he also targeted Master Gucci, almost causing Star Palace to lose one of its 2 experts at the pinnacle of the 6th realm. After repeatedly bullying Star Palace, Jian Wushuang now had the ability to teach Pupil Master a deep lesson. Even if he could not kill him, he had to at least let Pupil Master remember this lesson. In the Red Cloud world, including when he was adventuring on the 3 battlefields, he would have some scruples when he encountered experts from Star Palace. He did not dare to kill them recklessly. Jian Wushuang unleashed his full strength. Although he had fought Pupil Master before, he had never used the power of the will given by the universe principles, nor had he used his swordsmanship at full strength. But now, Jian Wushuang's full strength could only be described as valiant or terrifying. His divine power was shockingly powerful. His swordsmanship was even more mysterious. Each of his sword contained an extremely rich sword principle universe origin. Although Pupil Master also used his full strength, he was completely crushed by Jian Wushuang in a fight. It was one-sided. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Pupil Master was no match for Jian Wushuang. He's too strong. His combat strength is too strong. His divine power is definitely at the advanced ruler level. He's stronger than ordinary advanced rulers, so he's naturally much stronger than me. His swordsmanship is even more terrifying. His understanding of sword principle is much higher than all the sword principle experts I've met. Sword principle origin. Yes, he has already stepped into the sword principle universe origin, and every move he makes contains a rich sword principle universe origin. His swordsmanship is not only extremely powerful, but also extremely profound. It's not something I can compare to. The power of the divine power was comparable to that of a superior ruler, and in his opinion, even a superior ruler might not be as good as Jian Wushuang's understanding of sword principle. This resulted in Jian Wushuang's terrifying strength. He was definitely the best among the superior rulers. Pupil Master was completely unable to contend with him. It's better to leave first. After a short exchange of blows, Pupil Master was completely shocked by Jian Wushuang's strength. Naturally, he had no intention to continue fighting with Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang had something that made him extremely desperate for a special treasure, with his current strength, it was definitely not something he could get. He could only leave first and then think of other ways. Pupil Master wanted to leave, but Jian Wushuang did not intend to let him leave. Magic Sand Domain. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and instantly, endless black sand rolled up crazily. In the blink of an eye, it formed a huge black sand sea that covered the entire heaven and earth void. Pupil Master's figure was also covered by the black sand sea. A domain-type true treasure? Judging from its aura, it's a pinnacle domain-type true treasure. Pupil Master was shocked. Domain-type true treasures were extremely precious among the many true treasures of the same level. As for a pinnacle domain-type true treasure, its value was not much lower than a supreme true treasure. Although he was a ruler and for some special reasons, he had accumulated 2 supreme true treasures over a long period of time. One was an attack-type true treasure, and the other was a supreme true treasure armor. However, a pinnacle domain-type true treasure, he did not have one. However, he did not expect that Jian Wushuang, a principal's master, not only had a supreme offensive weapon, but he also had a pinnacle domain-type true treasure. What Pupil Master did not know was that although Jian Wushuang was a principal's master, he had killed 3 rulers in the divine beginning realm. The 3 rulers were all from the second-level star world, Devil Cloud Star. They were all extraordinary. Jian Wushuang had obtained this pinnacle domain-type true treasure from one of the rulers. It was a ring called the Devil Sand Ring. Jian Wushuang had long recognized the Devil Sand Ring as his master. Now, when he used it, it instantly formed a huge Devil Sand Ocean that suppressed everything. When Pupil Master was trapped in the Devil Sand Ocean, he was immediately suppressed. His speed was greatly reduced and his overall strength was greatly suppressed. Blood Sword Master, I'm leaving. Don't go too far. Pupil Master could feel the suppression of the surrounding sea of devil sand, and he could not help being shocked and angry. Go too far. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. I've already said that if you don't hand over 3 pinnacle true treasures to make amends, you won't be able to leave so easily. Kill. Relying on the suppression of the magic sand realm, Jian Wushuang came to the front of the Pupil Master again. The fierce sword light continued to crush the Pupil Master with an unstoppable momentum. The Pupil Master could only barely resist, but it became more and more difficult. Under the suppression of the magic sand realm, it was obviously impossible for him to escape from Jian Wushuang by normal means. Blood Sword Master, you win this time. I'll remember you. Pupil Master gritted his teeth and shouted, and then his chi and blood suddenly surged. Boom! Pupil Master's divine body was bulging, but the divine power aura emitted from his body was obviously weakened. Swish! A burst of blood light burst out, leaving a trail of blood shadows in the void. The Pupil Master rushed out of the area of the magic sand domain and soon disappeared from Jian Wushuang's sight. Did he escape? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes, but he was not surprised. He knew very well that it was impossible for him to kill the Pupil Master alone since his strength had reached the level of the Pupil Master. The Pupil Master had been acting recklessly in this star field for so many years and had offended countless experts. However, he was still alive and well, so he naturally had a life-saving trump card. It was obvious that Pupil Master had used a life-saving secret skill and left this time. It's not bad to be able to force him to use a life-saving secret skill, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. The many Principal's masters watching the battle around them sighed when they saw Pupil Master turn into a bloody light and leave. He escaped. Pupil Master actually used a life-saving secret technique to escape. TSK, a mighty ruler, and an extremely powerful ruler at that. But today, he's facing a Principal's master, yet he can only use a life-saving secret technique to escape? Isn't this a little too laughable? Indeed. In this battle, Pupil Master has indeed lost a lot of face. As for Blood Sword Master, with his realm as a Principal's master, he directly suppressed Pupil Master and forced him to use a life-saving secret technique to escape. This battle record is enough to look down on this star field. From today on, Blood Sword Master's reputation will reach a new peak. Many Principal's masters around the battlefield were staring at Jian Wushuang. There was not only shock and awe in their eyes, but also a hint of admiration. They were Principal's masters. They were usually respectful when they saw the ruler, but Blood Sword Master was able to defeat him and force him to use his life-saving secret skill to escape. How could they not admire him? In the center of the battlefield, Jian Wushuang had already put the Netherworld Divine Sword back into its sheath. Elder Darkbone and Master Gucci had also walked toward him. Haha! Heavenly Sword Marquis, you really surprised me today. Elder Darkbone had a bright smile on his face, and his small eyes were slightly narrowed with a strange look. Although I'm also a Principal's master, I can only rely on some special means to protect myself when facing a ruler, but you can kill a ruler and force him to use a life-saving secret skill to escape. TSK. Amazing, amazing. Even Elder Darkbone could not help but praise him. Elder Darkbone is too polite. In fact, I'm not much stronger than Pupil Master. He also has the protection of the Supreme True Treasure armor. Even if he doesn't escape and continues to fight with me, I won't be able to kill him, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. That's true, but you're still very impressive, Elder Darkbone said. Yes, for a Principal's master to be able to do this, I'm afraid you're the first Blood Sword Master in the history of this star field. Master Gucci could not help but say, the first person in history? Jian Wushuang shook his head. Others might not know, but he knew very well. When his master Xian Yi was a principal's master, his battle strength was comparable to that of a superior ruler with the Heaven Suppression Tablet. His current battle strength was considered relatively strong among advanced rulers, but it was still inferior to that of a superior ruler. Elder Darkbone, thank you for your help this time. If you hadn't stopped Pupil Master in time, I'm afraid that Master Gucci would have died at Pupil Master's hands. By the time I arrived, Pupil Master would have already gotten the treasure and left, Jian Wushuang said. Haha, it's nothing. Besides, I also got a top-tier Supreme Treasure armor from Pupil Master. It's a great reward, Elder Darkbone said with a casual smile. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Jian Wushuang knew a little about Elder Darkbone. Although he was not from Star Palace, he came from the Divine Beginning Realm. Moreover, he also knew the ultimate secret of the Divine Beginning Realm. Therefore, Elder Darkbone was on the same side as Star Palace and Jian Wushuang. Because of this, Elder Darkbone had helped him several times in the Divine Beginning Realm. This time in the Red Cloud world, when Elder Darkbone saw that Master Gucci of Star Palace was threatened, he directly helped him. By the way, Elder Darkbone, are you wandering alone in the Red Cloud world? Where is Life Fall King? Jian Wushuang asked. Life Fall King was the ruler Jian Wushuang had met in the Divine Beginning Realm. He was Elder Darkbone's good friend and had met Jian Wushuang once. Life Fall also came to the Red Cloud world, but you know that there are 7 continents in the Red Cloud world. Although I entered the Red Cloud world at the same time with him, we have already separated. He is now wandering on the 1st continent, and I am on the 3rd continent, Elder Darkbone said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. Heavenly Sword Marquis, do you think that Pupil Master's behavior is a bit strange? Elder Darkbone suddenly asked. Strange. Jian Wushuang frowned. He said subconsciously, Pupil Master is famous for being shameless and unreasonable in this star field. He only cares about profit. When he saw that Master Gucci had obtained a top-tier domain-type true treasure, he became greedy and directly seized it. It doesn't seem wrong. Pupil Master had been in the 3 battlefields for many years, and there had been many cases where he had attacked Principal's Master because of a treasure. It seemed normal for him to attack Master Gucci this time. I just thought that he was too straightforward when he gave me that top-tier true treasure armor, Elder Darkbone said. But maybe it was because he took a fancy to Master Gucci's purifying fire array that he gave me a top-tier true treasure armor so readily. He did not continue to dwell on this issue. Heavenly Marquis Sword, I'll take my leave now that things are settled. Elder Darkbone quickly bade Jian Wushuang farewell and left. After Elder Darkbone left, only Jian Wushuang and Master Gucci remained in the void of the battlefield. Gucci, thank you for saving my life, Master Bloodsword, Master Gucci said gratefully. You're the Principal's Master of Star Palace, so it's my duty to save you. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. But Master Gucci, I'm not too far away from you this time, and Elder Darkbone helped you along the way. That's why you were able to hold on until I arrived. But if I encounter such a crisis again, I might not be able to make it. So you must be careful in the Red Cloud world from now on. After all, there are many rulers here. Although you have the battle strength of the ultimate 6 realms and the protection of the fire-cleansing formation, a ruler-level expert can still kill you with his full strength. If you die, Star Palace will lose 1 less expert of the ultimate 6 realms. This loss is no small matter. I understand. Master Gucci nodded heavily. He was indeed a little too confident in the beginning. To be exact, he had underestimated a ruler. He thought that with the protection of the net fire array, even a ruler-level great being might not be able to kill him. That was why when Pupil Master had rushed over and asked him to hand over that top-tier domain-type true treasure, he had been selfish, he did not want to hand it over. But in the end, he almost died. If he had handed over the supreme domain-type true treasure honestly from the beginning, there might not have been anything that would have happened. Of course, this was also because they did not know Pupil Master's true intentions. In short, it's best to be careful. A true treasure is important, but your life is much more valuable than a true treasure, Jian Wushuang reminded before leaving. After Jian Wushuang left, the numerous principal's masters who had been surrounding the battlefield also left. After they left, the principal's masters immediately reported the battle they had just witnessed to their respective forces, the astral world or their good friends. The news spread like wildfire. It did not take long for the experts in the star field to learn about the shocking battle. For a moment, countless great beings in this star field were shocked. There was nothing they could do. This battle was too shocking. Could even be said that it was unbelievable. Who was the pupil master? He was a supreme being who had dominated this star field and made many great beings from various powers suffer losses. He could be said to have been dominating this star field. His power could not be said to be too powerful among rulers. After all, he could not be said to be a true senior ruler. However, the key point was that he had many true treasures and many means. He had a supreme true treasure that could attack godly weapons, and he had a supreme true treasure armor that could protect his body. That alone was enough to make senior rulers unable to do anything to him. There had been more than one senior ruler who had attacked him not to kill him, but just to teach him a lesson. However, those senior rulers could not do it. Even senior rulers could not hurt him. Only a superior ruler was qualified to make pupil master bow his head. But he could only bow his head. If a superior ruler had come to kill him personally, he might not have been able to kill him. However, this time such an exceptional figure had suffered a great setback. He had fallen at the hands of Jian Wushuang, a mere principal's master. The dignified pupil master had been completely crushed by Jian Wushuang in a head-on fight. Jian Wushuang had even defeated pupil master's attack with a single sword strike, causing him to vomit blood at the same time. In the end, pupil master was forced to use his life-saving secret skill and escape in a sorry state. What kind of strength was this? Advanced ruler, blood sword master has the battle strength of an advanced ruler at least. Advanced ruler is for sure. It seems that his battle strength is very strong even among advanced rulers, and he is one of the top ones. Only in this way can he make pupil master, who has the supreme true treasure armor, vomit blood in a head-on fight. What is going on with this blood sword master? Isn't he a principal's master? How can he be so powerful? He is indeed only at the level of a principal's master. There is no doubt about that. As for why his combat power is so powerful, we do not know. However, if nothing goes wrong, it may be related to the special opportunity he had in the life and death region. Right? This blood sword master was not very famous at first, and he was not very strong among the principal's masters. However, because he had stayed in the life and death realm for nearly 100,000 years, after he came out, he defeated 5 ultimate experts of the 6 states by himself and became the strongest among the principal's masters in the star area. However, only 10,000 years have passed, and his combat strength is already comparable to that of a senior ruler. There is no doubt that he must have obtained an incredible opportunity in the life and death realm. The question is, what did he gain in the life and death realm? Who knows? In short, after this battle, we can no longer treat Blood Sword Master as a principal's master. We must treat him as a ruler, or even an advanced ruler. Countless experts in the star field were shocked by Jian Wushuang's astonishing strength. Countless experts were shocked by Jian Wushuang's battle record. Countless experts were discussing this matter crazily, discussing Jian Wushuang. The name Blood Sword Master had once again shocked the entire star field after more than 10,000 years. The difference was that his battle record this time was far more brilliant than the last time, so the shock he caused was naturally greater. Within the Red Cloud world. Haha, Heavenly Marquis Sword, congratulations. This time, you have truly made a name for yourself in this star field. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master laughed out loud as he sent a message over. My young friend Heavenly Marquis has long made a name for himself in this star field. However, the commotion he caused this time was even greater, and the commotion was even greater. A ruler of principles actually killed that Lord and forced him to flee with his head in his hands. By now, all the rulers in this star field probably already know of your existence. Furthermore, they will all remember you. In the future, they will definitely not dare to underestimate you in the slightest. Well, I was a ruler in the 3 battlefields, And now he has sent me a message to ask about you, Temporal Temple Master said. Jian Wushuang only smiled when he received the message from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master. He knew that if he made a move, it would cause a stir in the star field. He had been prepared for this. It's a pity. I had planned to fight for the supreme true treasure the next time I encountered it. This way, I might be able to gain the upper hand and catch the masters who fought with me off guard. Who knew that I would encounter a pupil master and expose my strength in advance? Jian Wushuang sighed, but he did not care too much about it. If he was exposed, so be it. It was just a loss of opportunity for him. It was not a big deal. The only regret was that even though Pupil Master had suffered a setback this time, he had only lost some face and a top-tier true treasure armor. This loss was nothing to Pupil Master. It was not enough to make him feel sorry for him. He probably would not be too afraid of him. If Pupil Master did not fear him this time, it was inevitable that he would not seek revenge in the future. Although Jian Wushuang did not care about Pupil Master's revenge, Star Palace did. He shook his head and did not think much about it. My young friend, are you still planning to meditate in front of the Sword Stone? Temporal Temple Master suddenly asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. The Sword Stone contains extremely exquisite swordsmanship, but I'm very helpful. In that case, continue to meditate. If there is a supreme treasure in the Red Cloud world, we will inform you, Temporal Temple Master said. Okay, Jian Wushuang replied. It did not take long for Jian Wushuang to return to the front of the Sword Stone. Because he had left, the position that was closest to the Sword Stone had been occupied by someone else. However, Jian Wushuang's strength was there. As soon as he showed up, the person immediately stepped aside. Jian Wushuang sat down cross-legged in front of the Sword Stone and continued to meditate on the fourth sword skill. In a flash, 3,000 years had passed. During these 3,000 years, there were naturally countless supreme treasures in the Red Cloud world. Even the strongest supreme treasure had been born 3 times. However, these 3 supreme treasures were only offensive divine weapons. In the end, they were obtained by 3 different rulers. As for the Temporal Temple Master and the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master, in these 3,000 years, each of them had obtained 1 supreme treasure, but they did not obtain the strongest supreme treasure. This was also due to their bad luck. Out of the 3 supreme true treasures that had been born, only 1 had been born on the 6th continent where Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master was located. However, the location of the birth was extremely far away from where Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master was located. However, when Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master arrived, that supreme true treasure had already fallen into the hands of an extremely powerful senior ruler. Naturally, Heaven-Cleaving Alliance Master was unable to continue fighting over it. During the past 3,000 years, the 3rd continent had been relatively calm. No supreme true treasure had been born. Only a pinnacle true treasure had been born, which had led to fierce fights. However, it had not reached the stage where a ruler expert had to fight to the death. As for Jian Wushuang, he had been staying in front of the Sword Stone for the past 3,000 years. He had been studying and comprehending the 4th sword skill contained in the Sword Stone, so as to perfect the move, Earth Guard. Over the past 3,000 years of comprehension, his understanding of sword principle had reached a higher level, and he could activate more universe origin of sword principle. Most importantly, the move Earth Guard had reached its limit under his continuous improvement. Finally, it had reached its limit. Almost there. Under the Sword Stone, Jian Wushuang's eyes had opened again. Over the past 3,000 years of comprehension and countless deductions in my mind, I have already perfected the move Earth Guard to the limit that I can reach now. Even if the sword skill contained in the Sword Stone is still unfathomable to me, I can't continue to improve it, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He had indeed reached the limit of the Earth Guard. If he wanted to improve further, it would be difficult to comprehend the sword skill in the Sword Stone. He had to improve his understanding of the sword principle first. As his understanding of the sword principle became higher and higher, that move could continue to be improved. However, Jian Wushuang's understanding of the sword principle was already very high and had long surpassed the level of an ordinary ruler. With this foundation, He could deduce the protective swordsmanship of Earthguard to the extreme. What kind of defensive ability would this move have? Jian Wushuang did not know, but he had a bottom line. At the very least, an ordinary elementary or even advanced ruler would not be able to defeat his swordsmanship. As for whether a superior ruler would be able to defeat him, he did not know. Before, although my swordsmanship was not bad, I was good at offensive swordsmanship. If I met an expert with similar strength, my swordsmanship would have an advantage. But if I met an expert whose strength was far greater than mine, my offensive swordsmanship would be useless. But now, with the Earthguard, even if I met an expert whose strength was far greater than mine, it would not be so easy for him to completely crush me. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. After more than 3,000 years of meditation under the Sword Stone, his strength did not seem to have improved much. However, in fact, after more than 3,000 years of meditation, he had perfected the Earthguard. This made his swordsmanship much more perfect than before. In the future, his swordsmanship could be both offensive and defensive. Whether he met someone with similar strength or an expert whose strength was far stronger than his, he could deal with them. This kind of gain was much more difficult than his improvement in strength. I have to thank the person who left the words on the Sword Stone. Jian Wushuang looked at the Sword Stone in front of him. The 4 huge golden words on the Sword Stone emitted an extremely ancient and special aura. Each of the 4 golden words contained a profound sword skill. Over the past 3,000 years, Jian Wushuang had only comprehended one of them, which was the body-protecting sword skill. In fact, the other 3 offensive sword skills were also very impressive. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang did not intend to continue comprehending them. I have comprehended under the Sword Stone for so many years, and I have already gained a lot. I should be satisfied. After all, the Red Cloud world has only opened once for 10,000 years. In the remaining time, I still have to explore the Red Cloud world, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. If he was in the outside world, he would not mind continuing to meditate under the condition that he had enough time. However, he was in the Red Cloud world after all. There were many opportunities in the Red Cloud world, not just the Sword Stone. Naturally, Jian Wushuang could not spend all his time meditating on the sword skill in the Sword Stone. Let's go! Jian Wushuang stood up, took one last look at the Sword Stone, and then planned to turn around and leave. But just as he turned around, buzz! A majestic supreme treasure aura suddenly burst out from the surrounding void. This supreme treasure aura was extremely powerful, and it swept in all directions almost in an instant. The vast world began to tremble in an instant. The sudden burst of the true treasure's aura naturally attracted Jian Wushuang and the nearly 100 principles masters who were comprehending sword principle in front of the Sword Stone. Immediately, the over 100 principles masters stood up. Jian Wushuang also raised his head and looked at the source of the true treasure's aura. It was very close to where he was. Very close. As he released his soul power wantonly, it instantly covered an area of 100,000 miles. Less than 50,000 miles in front of him. The source of the true treasure aura was there. Jian Wushuang saw a huge blood-colored vortex appearing in the center of the earth. In the middle of the blood-colored vortex, a pair of pitch-black, cold wings slowly extended out. Wings? A flight-type true treasure. And this aura? Even Jian Wushuang could not suppress the shock and joy in his heart when he felt the aura of the true treasure emitted by the black wings and the great commotion around him. Whoosh! Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang immediately rushed toward the location of the black wings at his fastest speed. At the same time, the hundreds of principles masters who had been comprehending sword principle in front of the Sword Stone also rushed toward the black wings like wasps. However, Jian Wushuang was much faster than the ordinary principles masters. Soon, he arrived at the void around the giant blood vortex. He was also the first person to arrive here. Standing in the void around the blood-red vortex, Jian Wushuang's eyes were like lightning. He stared at the black wings that were slowly breaking out of the blood-red vortex, and his body trembled with excitement. It's indeed the strongest supreme treasure. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. The strongest universe supreme treasure, and it was a flight-type supreme treasure such as wings? Among all the universe true treasures, due to the different functions of each type, the value of this true treasure was naturally different. Among them, the Supreme Universe True Treasure was, without a doubt, enough to cause the rulers to go crazy for it. And a Supreme Universe True Treasure armor was enough to drive the rulers crazy and make them throw caution to the wind. But now, the black wings that appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, which were breaking free from the blood-colored whirlpool, was clearly a Supreme Flight Type True Treasure. Flight Type. In terms of value, it was even higher than the Supreme Treasure armor. It was completely comparable to the most powerful domain-type Supreme Treasure. If such a Supreme Treasure was not born in the Red Cloud world, but in other parts of the star field, it would cause a stir in the entire star field. I am the first person to come to the vicinity of the Black Wing, but unfortunately, the wing has not been fully born yet. Jian Wushuang frowned slightly. In the Red Cloud world, it took a certain amount of time for a Supreme Treasure to be born. Jian Wushuang knew this very well. As the most powerful flying Supreme Treasure, the Black Wings would be born even longer. Although he was the first to arrive here, it would not take long for a large number of experts to arrive. No matter what, I must find a way to get the wings. Jian Wushuang's eyes were burning, and he immediately took out his messaging token. Heaven-cleaving and temporal, I have the strongest flight type Supreme Treasure. It's around me. I'm the first to arrive at the scene. Jian Wushuang sent a message. What? The strongest flight type Supreme Treasure? Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master and Temporal Temple Master were immediately shocked. After the shock, there was an unprecedented ecstasy. Heavenly Sword Marquis, the strongest flight type Supreme Treasure is much more precious than the strongest Supreme Treasure armor. If you can get it, then our trip in the Red Cloud world will be worthwhile. So, you must find a way to get it. Heaven-cleaving Alliance Master said excitedly. Yes, a Supreme Flight Type True Treasure is too important. If you have one in the future, your life-saving ability will definitely be upgraded to a whole new level. Even if the original body of Devil Cloud Star Master arrives personally in the future, he might not be able to kill you. Temporal Temple Master was also extremely excited. I know, but this flight-type Supreme True Treasure is so precious. The competition for it will definitely be fierce. I don't know if I can get my hands on it, Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. It was not because he was not confident. It was because the Supreme Flight-type True Treasure was so precious that even rulers would lose their minds, let alone Principles Masters. Moreover, the birth of the Supreme Flight-type True Treasure would take a long time, and it would attract more experts. Even rulers on the third continent would be alarmed. In such an environment, it was not easy to get his hands on the most powerful flight-type True Treasure. Besides, even if he was lucky enough to get his hands on the most powerful flight-type True Treasure, it would still be a problem for him to keep it. No matter what, you should think of a way to get your hands on the most powerful flight-type True Treasure first. I will rush to the third continent with Xianxia as fast as possible. Xianxia is far away from you, so it might take some time, but I can get there in half a day, Temporal Temple Master said seriously. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Jian Wushuang knew how Temporal Temple Master worked. If he was with him, it would be much easier for him to escape and save his life. Of course, all of this was just empty talk. After all, the Black Wings had not been born yet, and he had not gotten his hands on them yet. At that moment, attracted by the appearance of the Black Wings, more than 200 great beings had rushed to the surroundings of the blood-red whirlpool. The main reason was that the place where the Black Wings had been born was too close to the Swordstone. The appearance of the Black Wings had spread the news, and almost all of the 100 Principles Masters under the Swordstone had arrived. When they arrived, they naturally saw the level of the Black Wings. A Supreme True Treasure. This aura is definitely a Supreme True Treasure. Black Wings. This is a Supreme Flight Type True Treasure. A Supreme True Treasure? And it's an extremely rare Flight Type True Treasure. Oh my God! Around the blood-red whirlpool, the eyes of the more than 200 Principles Masters turned red. Under those red eyes, they were filled with desire and madness. At the same time, These principles masters immediately passed on this matter to the experts on the third continent who could arrive at the fastest speed. For a time, the entire third continent, and even the entire Red Cloud world, were completely shaken. Supreme true treasures were precious to begin with. Supreme flight-type true treasures were enough to make people go crazy. After hearing that a supreme flight-type true treasure had been born, many great beings on the third continent went crazy. Countless great beings, including those rulers who were adventuring on the third continent, rushed over at the fastest speed, regardless of whether they were far from the place of birth or close to it, regardless of whether they were close or far away from the place of birth. For a time, the location of the blood-red vortex became the focus of the entire Red Cloud world. The speed of the emergence of the black wings is too slow. Although Jian Wushuang was the first to arrive at the place of birth, as time passed, when 2/3 of the black wings broke free from the blood-red vortex, there were already more than 500 experts gathered around. More than 500 people, although they were all principles masters, could not pose a threat to Jian Wushuang. However, the number of them could not be completely ignored by Jian Wushuang. Moreover, the black wings still had not fully emerged. There was still an endless stream of experts arriving from all directions. Although Jian Wushuang was only a principles master, he was undoubtedly the focus of attention of all the principles masters present. It's Blood Sword Master. Damn it, Blood Sword Master is actually here. Now it's going to be very difficult for us to fight for the black wings. Humph. Even if Blood Sword Master is as powerful as a ruler, it won't be so easy for him to get the black wings later. Many strange gazes swept over Jian Wushuang from time to time. There were more than 500 principles masters present. Some were strong and some were weak. There were also a few who had reached the pinnacle of the sixth realm. However, everyone knew that Jian Wushuang was the most terrifying of them all. When the black wings fully emerged, fighting over them would be the greatest threat to these principles masters. These principles masters are all very wary of me. Jian Wushuang sensed the gazes around him and could not help narrowing his eyes. He had no choice. His previous battle with Pupil Master had made him famous. Now everyone knew that his battle strength was comparable to that of a ruler, or even an advanced ruler. It was definitely not something that an ordinary principles master could compare to. Since everyone present was only a principles master and no ruler was present, he was naturally the most eye-catching one. It will take some time before the emergence of the wings. Although more experts will arrive during this time, I'm confident that I can obtain the black wings if only a principles master arrives and not a ruler-level expert. I'm afraid that a ruler will arrive. Jian Wushuang frowned. Jian Wushuang was not worried about the number of principles masters unless they were like the Blood Saber Emperor, who could unleash the strength of an ordinary ruler in a short period of time. These principles masters would not be able to stop him now. However, it would be different if a ruler-level expert was present. Ha! Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. Damn it, what I'm afraid of comes true. Jian Wushuang raised his head and looked to the side. His soul power had already sensed an extremely powerful aura and was rushing over at a terrifying speed. In just an instant, he appeared around the blood-colored vortex and a golden figure slowly appeared. It was a tall man wearing golden armor, boots, and carrying a golden axe on his back. This tall man's eyes were long and narrow, and his eyes were suffused with a faint golden light. When he arrived near the blood-colored vortex, he glanced at the black wings that were slowly breaking out from the core of the blood-colored vortex, and his eyes instantly lit up. A hint of fanaticism appeared on his face. Tyrant Axe. It's Ruler Tyrant Axe. He actually came as well. When the surrounding principles masters saw this person, they immediately began to stir. Many people looked at the golden figure with fear and respect in their eyes. Ruler Tyrant Axe was also a famous and powerful advanced ruler in this star field. He was also the leader of a force. I was worried that there would be an expert at the ruler level here, but now there's an expert at the advanced ruler level. Jian Wushuang's face darkened at the sight of the arrival of the ruler Tyrant Axe. An advanced ruler was qualified to stop him. He was not confident that he could defeat the well-known ruler Tyrant Axe in a head-on battle, let alone fighting for treasures. The reason why the ruler tyrant axe had such a name was that his axe skills were extremely powerful and terrifying. It seems that I'm quite lucky. There are 6 or 7 people who live in the third continent, and I'm the first one to arrive at the place where the flying supreme true treasure was born. Ruler Tyrant Axe's soul power swept through the surrounding void. He did not sense any other ruler's aura. Although there was no ruler, there was still one aura that he could not ignore. Is this kid the blood sword master? The ruler Tyrant Axe fixed his gaze on Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang looked at him as well. Their eyes met, creating a faint electric spark in the void. But that was it. The Black Wings had not yet been born, and there were so many Principles Masters around, so they naturally could not fight first. Humph! I heard that Blood Sword Master defeated Pupil Master and forced him to flee. He is quite capable, but Pupil Master is only a primary ruler, but I'm different. Blood Sword Master, I hope you don't block my way later or else. A sneer appeared on Tyrant Axe's lips. He did not know that Jian Wushuang had the same thoughts as him. The Black Wings that were about to break free from the blood-red vortex were the most powerful flight-type true treasure. Jian Wushuang was determined to obtain it. Even if the Tyrant Axe ruler was present, Jian Wushuang would not be afraid. If the Tyrant Axe ruler stood in his way, Jian Wushuang would fight him to a draw. At the bottom of the blood-red vortex, 80 to 90% of the Black Wings were already exposed. They were about to be completely revealed. At this moment, more than 700 Principles Masters had gathered here. Some of them were astonishingly famous and powerful. Fortunately, other than Ruler Tyrant Axe, there was no other ruler present. Beside the blood-colored vortex, more than 700 experts were staring at the bottom of the vortex, staring at the Black Wings. Everyone was waiting for the Black Wings to come out completely. Finally, the last part of the Black Wings broke out of the blood-red whirlpool, and the entire Black Wings rose up. At the same time, the majestic aura of the supreme true treasure swept out instantly. It's born! More than 700 great beings around the blood-colored whirlpool were shocked when they saw the Black Wings break free from the blood-colored whirlpool. Then numerous figures moved almost at the same time. Hurry up and grab it. The strongest flight-type supreme treasure is mine. I'll kill anyone who dares to block me. I'll risk it all for the wings. More than 700 Principles Masters frantically rushed toward the center of the blood-colored vortex, which was the Black Wings. Everyone instantly sped up, hoping that they would be the first to reach the Black Wings and put them into their interspatial rings. As for Jian Wushuang and the Ruler Tyrant Axe, they also moved at once. Jian Wushuang used the shadowless escape art and burst out with his fastest speed. And at the moment he moved, Magic Sand Realm. Jian Wushuang waved his hand, and endless black sand swept up crazily. In the blink of an eye, it formed a huge black sand sea that covered the entire heaven and earth void. The surrounding void, which was more than 10,000 miles wide, including the bloody whirlpool at the center, was covered by the black sand sea. Naturally, it also included the Principles Masters who rushed toward the Black Wings at the first opportunity. The terrifying Magic Sand Realm suppressed the speed of all the Principles Masters present. A pinnacle domain-type true treasure. It's Blood Sword Master's Magic Sand Realm. Damn it! This domain suppression is too strong. The Principles Masters were caught in the Magic Sand Realm, and their speed was greatly reduced. Their expressions changed greatly. A few Principles Masters took out their domain-type true treasures at once, trying to resist the impact of the Magic Sand Realm. However, the most powerful Principles Masters were only at the pinnacle of the 6th realm. What true treasures could they have? It was already good enough to have a top-tier domain-type supreme treasure, but such a supreme treasure could not withstand Jian Wushuang's Magic Sand Realm and was crushed as usual. They still could not recover their peak speed. However, among the many forces on the field, the only one who was not affected by Jian Wushuang's Magic Sand Realm was the Ruler Tyrant Axe. As a ruler and the leader of a force, the Ruler Tyrant Axe had many true treasures. Although he only had a golden axe in his hand, he had a pinnacle true treasure. He had almost all kinds of pinnacle domain-type true treasures. A vast green sea of fire swept out and formed a green sea of fire around the ruler tyrant axe. The green sea of fire released a terrifying aura. It collided with Jian Wushuang's black quicksand domain, and the two collided head-on. For a time, it was impossible to tell who was stronger. Because of the protection of the green sea of fire domain, the ruler tyrant axe was not suppressed at all. As a ruler, his speed was also frighteningly fast. At least, he was faster than Jian Wushuang. Oh no! Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. He also realized that he was not as fast as the ruler tyrant axe. Now, the two of them rushed toward the black wings from almost the same distance at the same time. However, if the ruler tyrant axe was not hindered by anything else, he would definitely arrive before the black wings. Once the black wings fell into the ruler tyrant axe's hands, it would be too difficult to get them again. Humph! Jian Wushuang was stunned for a moment. Then he unsheathed his netherworld divine sword. The ice-cold black divine sword released the aura of the most powerful supreme treasure. Jian Wushuang instantly unleashed the power of his divine power and used his life divine power and heaven-cleaving skill. Even the power of his will, which was given by the universal principles, was unleashed by Jian Wushuang at this moment without holding back. Starfire burning sun. A trace of ruthlessness flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. Whoosh! A violent sword light slashed through the void in an instant. With a terrifying power, it slashed toward the ruler tyrant axe at an even faster speed. You want to block me? The ruler tyrant axe was so domineering that he naturally saw the sword light coming toward him. However, a trace of disdain flashed in his eyes. The surging divine power instantly soared into the sky. The ruler tyrant axe was almost in front of the black wings. He had already stretched out his left hand and was about to put the black wings back into his interspatial ring. At this moment, he did not choose to withdraw his hand to block Jian Wushuang's sword. Instead, he continued to withdraw the black wings with his left hand, while his right hand instantly pulled out the golden axe behind him and swung it toward the sword light. Whoosh! The terrifying strike caused an ear-piercing sonic boom in the air. It was as if heaven and earth could not withstand the power of the axe and were about to be split apart by it. An advanced ruler's every move was earth-shattering. Even though the axe of the ruler tyrant axe was not the strongest, its power was still extremely powerful. Logically speaking, it should be able to defeat an elementary ruler head-on. However, Tyrant Axe was facing Jian Wushuang, who had unleashed his strongest power. Bang! An explosion sounded from a distance, and a terrifying power spread out like a tidal wave. Tyrant Axe's left hand was less than 3 meters away from the black wings. At such a close distance, Tyrant Axe revealed a look of ecstasy. He had thought that he was determined to get the black wings. But in the end, a terrifying power was transmitted through the giant axe in his hand. What? Ruler Tyrant Axe's expression changed, and his eyes were filled with shock. At that moment, he felt that terrifying power. Not only did that power change the direction of his giant axe, but it also immediately struck his divine body, creating an extremely powerful impact force. Ruler Tyrant Axe was protected by a pinnacle true treasure armor, and his divine body was extremely powerful. Such an impact force could hardly damage his divine body. However, although he would not be injured, when such a force hit his body, the impact force still sent him flying. No! Ruler Tyrant Axe shouted. The black wings were about to fall into his hands, but he was getting farther and farther away from them. He was pushed back by Jian Wushuang's sword. Although he was not far away, when he regained his balance and intended to continue fighting for them, Jian Wushuang had already appeared in front of the black wings. With a wave of his hand, he put the black wings into his interspatial ring. I got it! Jian Wushuang's eyes were also filled with unconcealable excitement and ecstasy. The black wings had been obtained. Although the fight was still going on, what happened next was much easier for Jian Wushuang. When the surrounding principal's masters saw Jian Wushuang put the black wings into his interspatial ring, their eyes immediately turned scarlet. The wings have fallen into the hands of Blood Sword Master? Humph, I don't care if he's Blood Sword Master or not. If he dares to snatch the wings, die! Kill him! The principal's masters were filled with killing intent. Normally, when these principles masters saw Jian Wushuang, they would avoid him without hesitation. They did not dare to have any more thoughts. However, it was different at this moment. These principles masters had been blinded by the supreme flight-type true treasure. Not to mention Jian Wushuang, the principles master, who was standing in front of them, they would not hesitate to attack even a genuine top-tier master. Boom! 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 A series of powerful attacks erupted at the same time. There were more than 700 principles masters around, and at least half of them attacked Jian Wushuang directly. The attacks were full of saber lights, sword shadows, whips, and mountains. They were all direct attacks. Some principles masters also used special attack methods or secret skills, such as soul attacks, illusions, and the effects of some special secret skills. In short, Jian Wushuang had become the focus of everyone's attacks. There were so many attacks coming from all directions that even a ruler-level expert would not dare to underestimate them. Although Jian Wushuang was strong, he could not resist the attacks of so many people at the same time. Boom! A large amount of power hit Jian Wushuang without being hindered. Jian Wushuang was covered by the violent power. But in just a moment, humph! With a cold snort and a cold sword light, all the power in front of him was annihilated. Jian Wushuang stepped out of the vast power. He's not dead. So many of us attacked at the same time, but we failed to kill him. It seems that he hasn't been injured. So what? Let's keep attacking. I don't believe that a mere principles master can stop so many of us. The principles masters, who were blinded by greed, immediately prepared for the second round. However, Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly turned cold. You are courting death. Jian Wushuang's killing intent surged. He pointed the netherworld divine sword in his right hand toward the void in front of him, and vast divine power instantly burst out. Sword rain. Buzz. A cold sword shadow flew straight out. It looked very thin, as if it did not have much power. However, after it flew out, it suddenly broke into thousands of tiny sword shadows the size of silver needles. These tiny sword shadows scattered from the top of the void. It was as if a sword rain had suddenly appeared between heaven and earth. The sword rain was so fast that the principles masters in front of Jian Wushuang did not have time to react. The tiny sword shadows had already entered their divine bodies. The void in front of them suddenly stopped. There were more than 80 principles masters in the void, but at this moment, their eyes were wide open and full of fear. The next moment, one of these 80 principles masters, other than the two strongest ones who were at the pinnacle of the sixth realm, who were still standing there, the rest were silently falling to the ground below. They fell to the spot and actually did not stand up again. With one sword strike, nearly 80 principles masters died on the spot. They were terrified. They were shocked. All the principles masters felt their scalps go numb when they saw this scene. They had been rushing toward Jian Wushuang crazily, but at this moment all the principles masters stopped moving. Although they were blinded by the supreme flight-type true treasure for a short time, they were not idiots. They would also feel scared. The scene before them made their hair stand on end. He had killed nearly 80 principles masters with just one sword attack. What did that mean? After all, there were only about 700 principles masters, and Jian Wushuang had killed nearly 80 of them with one sword attack. Did that mean that he could kill almost all of them with just 10 sword attacks? How is this possible? The power of one strike is so terrifying. Monster Blood Sword Master is a monster. How could we try to snatch the treasure from him? Are we courting death? The principles masters' heads were buzzing, and their madness and desire for the strongest flight-type true treasure was gradually suppressed by their reason. True treasures were good, but they had to be alive to take them. Jian Wushuang naturally noticed the changes in the eyes and expressions of the principles masters around him. He could see that they had been shocked by his sword attack. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang felt relieved. Although these principles masters were hardly a threat to him, if he had slaughtered them without restraint, he could have easily killed all of them with the sword rain move. But if he had done so, he would have offended too many people. There were more than 700 principles masters. These principles masters came from various forces, star worlds, and some big forces. If he slaughtered them all at once, he would immediately become the common enemy of this star field. Although he was not afraid, he would implicate the Star Palace. Now, these principles masters were all intimidated by his sword and did not want to fight for it anymore. That was naturally the best. Fortunately, when I was meditating under the Heaven Suppression Tablet, I thought that I might face a siege in the future, so I created the Sword Rain move. Otherwise, if I used other sword skills, even if they were more powerful, they would not be as powerful as they are now. Jian Wushuang muttered. The first move of Sword Rain was created when he was meditating under the Heaven Suppression Tablet. This move was not too mysterious. The reason why it could kill nearly 80 Principles Masters at one time was that Jian Wushuang's comprehension of Sword Principle was too high and his divine power was too strong. These Principles Masters with average strength could hardly survive the Sword Rain. But those who were strong, like the two pinnacle of the Sixth Realm, could still survive this move. Jian Wushuang had killed nearly 80 Principles Masters with a Sword Rain. He had stunned all the Principles Masters present. Of course, this did not include the Ruler Tyrant Axe. Boy, hand over your wings. With an angry roar, the golden-armored Ruler Tyrant Axe held the huge golden axe in one hand, but his entire body suddenly expanded. The Ruler Tyrant Axe, who was only the size of a normal human and could only be considered tall, suddenly turned into a 10-meter-tall golden giant. The golden giant emitted a monstrous aura, and his killing intent soared to the sky. He was like a slaughtered demon god who had walked out of hell. He took a series of steps, each step heavily trampling on the void. If it were in the void in the outside world, the terrifying power would have immediately exploded. In just a few steps, the golden demonic god formed by the Tyrant Axe ruler appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. The giant golden axe in his hand slashed down in a mighty and furious manner. Whoosh! The giant golden axe shadow seemed to split the heaven and earth into two. The suffocating and terrifying aura emitted from the golden axe shadow caused the surrounding Principles Masters to change their expressions. Jian Wushuang's expression also darkened. He could ignore all the Principles Masters present, but he did not dare to ignore the Ruler Tyrant Axe. After all, he was a genuine and extremely powerful advanced ruler. Humph! Jian Wushuang snorted and instantly displayed his life, divine power, and heaven-cleaving skill. The power of the will given by the universe principles was also unleashed to the maximum. Starfire burning sun. The sword light that was filled with endless violence slashed out in an instant, colliding head-on with the huge golden axe shadow that was slashing over. There was a loud clang, and the world shook. The Principles Masters who were watching the battle felt a piercing pain in their ears. At the same time, the terrifying power swept over from the place where the two powers collided. Voila! Endless godly power destroyed everything in the surroundings as easily as breaking dry weeds. Among them, a few Principles Masters who were relatively close to it were affected by this terrifying godly power because they could not dodge in time. In almost an instant, their godly bodies were destroyed and disappeared from the world. This scene caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. Retreat! Quickly retreat! Just the aftershock alone can easily annihilate a void 6-level Principles Master. Just how terrifying is this power? It's too terrifying. A high-level ruler-level fierce battle isn't something we can interfere with. The surrounding Principles Masters all retreated to a distance away from the battlefield. Even though they still harbored great ambitions toward the Black Wings, they did not dare to barge into this terrifying battlefield even if they were beaten to death. After all, treasures were not as important as life. And in the center of the battlefield, whoosh, whoosh, the two figures separated again. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold as he stared at the Tyrant Axe. The Tyrant Axe narrowed his eyes slightly. Good boy. I heard that you defeated Pupil Master and forced him to flee. Others said that you have the battle strength of an advanced ruler, but I didn't take it seriously. But now, when we fight, even I have to admit that you do have the battle strength of an advanced ruler. You are even very strong among advanced rulers. At least in terms of power, you are not weaker than me. The Tyrant Axe said in a deep voice. The Ruler Tyrant Axe was as domineering as his name suggested. His strongest attack was also an extremely overbearing and tyrannical attack. However, when he used his axe skill to fight head-on with Jian Wushuang, he did not have the slightest advantage. This made him immediately understand that Jian Wushuang was no weaker than him in terms of attack. Ruler Tyrant Axe, the wings have fallen into my hands. If you want them, you'll have to kill me. But do you think you can do that with your strength? Jian Wushuang snorted coldly. Humph! I can't kill you. But since the black wings have fallen into your hands, don't think about leaving so easily. Ruler Tyrant Axe was domineering and shouted, Blood Sword Master, take my axe. Rumble. The world shook. Ruler Tyrant Axe raised the golden axe in both hands at the same time. In an instant, another mighty axe with suffocating power came crushing toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He was not afraid of the Ruler Tyrant Axe in a one-on-one fight. If he really fought, he might be able to suppress the Ruler Tyrant Axe. However, he had just obtained the black wings, so he did not have time to fight with the Ruler Tyrant Axe. After all, the birth of the most powerful flight-type true treasure was so huge that the entire third continent and even the entire Red Cloud world were shocked. Not to mention the other continents, all the experts on the third continent were probably rushing here. Even if there was only one Ruler Tyrant Axe standing in front of him, if time passed, there would be a second one. If the third ruler was present, it would be very troublesome for him. I can't tangle with this Ruler Tyrant Axe. I have to think of a way to leave first. Jian Wushuang knew very well in his heart. He did not want to fight. All he wanted to do was leave. The Ruler Tyrant Axe naturally saw through his intentions. Humph! Blood Sword Master, you want to leave? It's not that easy. The Ruler Tyrant Axe let out a low growl. On the way to fight with Jian Wushuang, he suddenly flipped his hand and took out a small pyramid. This pyramid emitted an extremely dense aura of a true treasure. A suppression-type supreme treasure? Jian Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. The beginning of heaven and earth can suppress everything. Ruler Tyrant Axe's eyes were cold. He directly threw the pyramid into the void above him. Suddenly, a burst of bright golden light burst out from the pyramid, and the pyramid was magnified in everyone's sight. A layer of hazy golden light swept out in the surroundings, covering an area of hundreds of thousands of miles. The pyramid covered the entire area. Naturally, Jian Wushuang was also covered by the pyramid. Haha! Blood Sword Master, you can't escape. My golden tower is a pinnacle suppression-type true treasure. Even a superior ruler can't break it in a short period of time. It's impossible for you to escape from it, Ruler Tyrant Axe said with a sneer. Jian Wushuang's expression turned ugly. His soul power swept out, and he could feel how powerful the suppression formation released by the pyramid was. Just as Ruler Tyrant Axe had said, he could not break the suppression formation in a short period of time. Naturally, he could not leave from here. Blood Sword Master, don't even think about leaving until you hand over the black wings, Ruler Tyrant Axe shouted. Humph, Tyrant Axe, you think too highly of yourself. So what if you have a suppression-type pinnacle true treasure? Even if I can't leave, how can you kill me? Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. There was no fear in his expression. He just did not want to cause too much trouble, so he wanted to leave as soon as possible. But now that he could not leave, there was nothing to be afraid of. It was not easy to kill him in the star field with his life-saving means. Let's try it. Ruler Tyrant Axe did not want to waste time with Jian Wushuang. He transformed into a golden demonic god and dashed toward Jian Wushuang with the mighty golden axe in his hand. Jian Wushuang also went up to meet him. Jian Wushuang showed his full strength. He even exerted the power of his will, which was given by the universal laws. His battle strength soared, and he was much stronger than ordinary advanced rulers in terms of basic divine power. With his swordsmanship, he was not afraid to fight head-on with Ruler Tyrant Axe. He even had a slight advantage in the fight. Bang! 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 A series of low, terrifying explosions and collisions could be heard. The fierce battle between the two turned the sky and earth dark. The surrounding principal's masters who were watching the battle were already terrified. This blood sword master is so powerful, so terrifying. He is indeed terrifying. He is just a principles master. I originally thought that it would be inconceivable for him to have the battle power of a high-level ruler, but I didn't expect him to be even more powerful than the rumors had said. Ruler Tyrant Axe is already considered extremely powerful amongst high-level rulers, and his axe techniques are tyrannical. He specializes in killing, but in the end, when he fought with the Blood Sword Master, he ended up being at a disadvantage. The Blood Sword Master is slightly stronger than the Tyrant Axe Ruler in terms of direct combat ability. The Principles Masters were all amazed. While Jian Wushuang and the Tyrant Axe Ruler were engaged in a frenzied battle, there was still an endless stream of experts rushing over. Although the Tyrant Axe Ruler's suppression-type Supreme Treasure suppressed everything around and prevented Jian Wushuang from leaving, it did not stop people from rushing over. Therefore, as time passed, more and more experts came to the void. When these experts arrived, they immediately saw the terrifying battle between the rulers in the center of the battlefield. While they were shocked, the new Principles Masters quickly figured out what had happened and knew that the Supreme Flight-type True Treasure had fallen into Jian Wushuang's hands. The Supreme Flight-type True Treasure is in Blood Sword Master's hands? Someone suggested? What are we waiting for? Why don't we kill Blood Sword Master together? Then we can fight for the Supreme Flight-type True Treasure. If so many Principles Masters join hands, even if they are rulers, they will have to retreat. Someone suggested. Kill Blood Sword Master together? As soon as the suggestion was made, someone sneered. If you want to go ahead. I forgot to tell you that Blood Sword Master killed nearly 80 Principles Masters with one sword attack. What? Those Principles Masters who had just arrived in the void were shocked. Killed nearly 80 Principles Masters with one sword attack. And this matter was confirmed immediately because too many people had seen it at that time. With such a result, the new Principles Masters became much quieter. From the beginning to the end, none of the Principles Masters did not want to fight anymore. Of course, Jian Wushuang's achievement of killing nearly 80 Principles Masters with one sword stroke could shock many Principles Masters, but it could not shock a ruler-level expert. In addition to the ruler Tyrant Axe, who had rushed to the battle with Jian Wushuang, a second ruler-level expert soon arrived in the void. The second master was an acquaintance of Jian Wushuang. It was Pupil Master, who had been defeated by Jian Wushuang 3,000 years ago and had no choice but to flee in embarrassment. Blood Sword Master. As soon as Pupil Master arrived in the void, his faintly red eyes immediately locked onto Jian Wushuang. On the way here, he had learned that the most powerful flight-type Supreme Treasure had fallen into Jian Wushuang's hands. Now, Jian Wushuang was engaged in a fierce battle with the ruler Tyrant Axe. The occupation in front of him made Pupil Master realize that it was impossible for the ruler Tyrant Axe to defeat Jian Wushuang alone, and it was also impossible for him to hand over the Black Wings. Pupil Master stepped forward without hesitation. Ruler Tyrant Axe, let's join hands and teach this arrogant kid a good lesson. Pupil Master shouted in a low voice. Okay. Ruler Tyrant Axe nodded. This kid is not weak, and his ability to fight head-on is not weaker than mine. However, no matter how strong he is only a Principles Master. His body protection ability should not be that strong. Help me from the side and kill him when you have the chance. Okay. Pupil Master nodded heavily. They all understood that it was almost impossible for Jian Wushuang to hand over the wings in his hands. In that case, they had to find a way to kill Jian Wushuang. Although Jian Wushuang was very strong, he was only a Principles Master, so his life-saving ability could not be compared to an ordinary ruler. This also gave them hope to kill Jian Wushuang. Rumble. The endless blood clouds rolled. A monstrous wave of air pressed toward Jian Wushuang. Pupil Master also made a move, and he did his best. Having fought with Jian Wushuang in a head-on battle, he knew that Jian Wushuang was definitely stronger than him. Pupil Master? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and glanced at Pupil Master, but he was still not afraid. He did not care about the ruler Tyrant Axe at all. Even with Pupil Master, he was still not qualified to threaten him. So what if they joined hands? Even if the two rulers joined hands with his current strength, he could still fight them head-on and even suppress them. Boom! Jian Wushuang attacked with all his strength. Not only did he unleash his power to the maximum, but most importantly, his swordsmanship had finally been completely unleashed. It should be known that he had entered the origin of the sword universe very early in his understanding of sword principle, which was a step that most rulers had never reached. After a long period of time, especially 5,000 years of comprehension under the heaven-suppressing tablet, and 3,000 years of study within the sword stone, his comprehension of the sword Tao grew increasingly higher and higher. The current him had already truly stepped into the origin of the sword universe. His comprehension of the sword Tao had long surpassed that of an ordinary high-level ruler. Even if it was a peak ruler, there were probably only a few who could match up to him. With such a high understanding of the sword, his attainments in swordsmanship were naturally high as well.